it's saying you need to log out and log back in. Something to do with the recording. I'm not sure exactly what. But anyhow, so like I said, the stuff that was covered, I just made a separate video for it. And then I posted the class from 7.6, and I'm pretty sure I have all the associated files from those classes now posted, because I had one particular individual who was waiting and waiting and waiting for those files. So now he's got them. So anyhow, that's the YouTube channel. So I wanted to point out too, on the chat side of things, this, if you go to the Patreon now, if you're a baddie member, you should be able to access these chats, and they can be really, really useful and show you how we utilize chat to simplify our life, and we're really going to see that tonight. But you see here, there was a comment that Teresa made. It says, when I click on these, it takes me to the chat, but no prompts. So I think when you click down here, or maybe on the image, it takes you to ChatGPT, but please verify this, guys, because if you can't access these, then do let me know. I'll look into it further. But I think if you click on the link right here, it should take you right there. Bernadette, you get?
I can see the prompts.
I can too. Look at here. Now this, I haven't posted this video yet, but if you're like me and Bernadette, we're special. We belong to a different group that teaches about Inkscape, and I did a class for them last week on this, and we did a pay stand. And so this was the chat from that class of, like, I took a source image and asked chat to make me something, and then we took another source example and went through and showed you how to get to where we ultimately got to with our pay stand. And then this was the finished product that we did with the business card holder and everything. So I am going to post that video, probably tonight yet, but you might be interested in that. So, and then I think all the information on the class itself is in that video too. So you might be interested in taking a look at that. So let's go back here. So this is the chat that I wanted to have you take a look at, because this is a chat that I used to prepare for tonight's class. And man, was it useful. So this image was posted, this image actually was posted to a Facebook group on 3D printing. I forget exactly what group it was, but this obviously was an AI generated image, and what he was looking to do was to create a hype chain for his son's baseball team. Yes, it was a hype chain. I'm fairly certain of that. So anyhow, this is why these chats, if you go through those chat prompts, might be of interest to you, because you could see where we started, and then you could see where we end and how we got there. So we said, all right, chat, I need you to simplify this image just a little bit, and also just flatten all the colors to just flat colors, suitable for 3D printing and vinyl cutting. So that particular prompt was like a real generic prompt. I didn't give it a whole lot of direction. I just said simplify it a little bit. And one thing that you'll find, the more that you use chat, the more it is almost like intelligent. So because I use chat so much, it kind of already knows. So I can give it a more generic description, because I've done so many logo conversions already. It kind of knows what I'm looking for. So this is what it gave me. And you could see, compared to the original, it definitely simplified it. So, like, for example, if you take a look at the M and the bats, especially, you see all these little bitty details, and 3 or 4 different colors in the bat and things like that. It definitely simplified it. You still got a nice clean logo, but a much more simplified one. And and it did, did that just totally automatically for me. I didn't really have to go in depth on details. Now, I did notice these baseball laces, and those obviously shouldn't be there. So I said, okay, this looks excellent. Now what we need to do is remove the baseball laces on the far left and right. And we want to remove the little hang tag circle at the top. And so this is what it gives me. My laces are removed and the little hang tag up top is gone. And I said, all right, chat, we have a couple small things we need to touch up. The black little stripes on the baseball handles, could we maybe not have as many and just make those a little bit more bold? And then also there's a small white border around the word baseball on the ribbon. And if possible, I would like that to also be a little bit more bold. And so you could see here, it actually did, I think it did one better. It removed the outline altogether and just gave me just a more simplified baseball. But you could see here in the bat, it gave us fewer but more bold details. So that's pretty cool. Now, I could have, and maybe I should just go ahead and ask chat as long as we're here, just to give you an idea. But in the original logo, baseball was split in two colors, okay? And this white outline, I don't really think adds anything to the design, but that baseball split does. And I didn't catch that when I was preparing this. So let's just go ahead and have chat split that in two for us. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, chat, this looks pretty good. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to split baseball basically in half. So half of it will be white and the lower half will be green, like in the original logo. And also, if you look at the original logo, it's slightly curved, the split. So we don't want just a flat, straight line, a slightly curved line splitting baseball in half. Top half to be white and the bottom half to be the matching green, as in the rest of the logo. So we go ahead and send that prompt over. And it should go ahead and give us that. If you're not using chat, you should be. You absolutely should be. It's going to simplify your workflow. And it still absolutely boggles my mind the number of people who are asking on these Facebook groups for 3D printing very, very, very simple things. Like you've seen these notebook covers going everywhere. It's like the new koozie or something. I don't know. But you see all these people posting all these images of notebook covers and notebook covers and notebook covers. And it's all being AI generated, folks. Like you don't really need to go and buy anything. You can just, if you see something or have an idea for something, let's see, what did it do? Did it do something we didn't want it to do? Let's go look. It does that once in a while. Aha, it took away our gold, which we didn't want. We need our gold. Okay, chat. Well, yes, you did split the baseball text in half, not quite half, but you got rid of all of our gold in the image, and I need that gold. So can you bring that gold back, please? So sometimes I should have been more explicit in my instructions. Do not touch the logo, only modify the baseball text, because sometimes it will just make up its own mind and do whatever it thinks we want it to do. So, but we do want the gold in the image for sure. So anyhow, it's 20 bucks a month, but it's the best $20 you'll ever spend. But yeah, if you need notebook covers, I haven't used my Creative Fabric. All right, now it's just making me mad. So let's do this. Let's go back here. We're happy with this one. So let's go ahead and copy it, and let's just create a new chat because it don't want to cooperate very well. And we'll give it more explicit instructions. Okay, chat, I need to take this image and I need you to split the word baseball into two parts. Top part being white and the bottom part being green, but I don't want any other part of the image modified whatsoever. Only the baseball text should be modified. Half of it being white, half of it being green, and the split should be right in the middle of the word baseball and be slightly curved, like the curvature of the baseball text as it is. But do not change any other part of the logo, just the baseball text. And now we shall see if it gives us the result that we want. But what we will do is while it's doing that, let's go back to our original chat here and take a look at the other designs that we're going to be working on tonight. And this is the Buck Jeep. So this individual sent us this logo and they're looking to make keychains. And so obviously when you see this, a 3-inch keychain that is shaped like this, that's a pretty big keychain. But in order to print something like this, I don't know that we can get it a whole lot smaller, but I definitely wouldn't. That's my max size. I don't, unless we really want a big keychain, I don't want to go over 3 inches. So what that means for us is we have to simplify this. And that's oftentimes people will send us artwork that we need to simplify it, but keep kind of sort of the original feel of the logo. So we are gonna go ahead and close this image and walk through the chat. So I said, first, we need to remove the background on this image and just have it on a solid white background. So you can see it did that part pretty good. And I said, all right, this is a good start. Now what we need to do is just simplify the design a little bit and make it more suitable for 3D printing, but more specifically, small 3D printing. This design is supposed to be for a keychain that is roughly 3 inches wide. So this is the first iteration it gave me, which you can see is pretty good. It did simplify it considerably. So it did that part pretty good, but I didn't like the background. So I said, okay, so I definitely love how you simplified the design. However, the black and red circle behind the horse is no longer a circle. It's more like an ellipse or an oval. So can we keep the black and red around the horse and Jeep grill, but we just want it to be perfectly circular in nature? And so this is what it gave me, which it is now. It does appear to be perfectly circular, but it's not exactly what I had in my brain. So I said, I don't hate it, but can we do this? Can we make the red and black circle behind the horse head and the grill, the Jeep grill, can we make it just a little bit bigger so that the red border connects to the red border around the Buck Jeep text? And then also, can we make kind of this, modify the Buck Jeep border to be the same thickness as the red border around the horse head? And so then it gave me this. And so it's pretty close. But I said, we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. But the circle, our background circle needs to just be a little bit bigger overall in width. The height is okay, but it needs to be a little bit wider to make the full connection on the left. So you see here on the left, it wasn't connected. Doesn't connect to the border around the Buck Jeep. And also the Buck Jeep, the width of the red border seems to be a little bit thinner. And so to me, that border was a little bit thinner than that one. And so it gave me this. And so now that was kind of what we were looking for. Okay, so it's just a little bit of fighting with chat to get our logo kind of the way we wanted it. Now, I was originally satisfied with this, but later on, after I looked at it a little bit more, I realized there was one more thing that we needed to do to it. But I'll show you that here in a minute. So then we moved on to this logo. This logo was provided to us, and they wanted to maybe use it as like a medallion on a trophy. and then maybe a keychain, maybe a hype chain, stuff like that. So this is a real simple logo. The one thing he was struggling with was the little bit of text. See where it says ESTD and the 2001? He was struggling with that. When making it keychain size, that text was really, really tiny. And so it was thin, and so he's having some issues printing that. So anyhow, so this is what we asked it to do. Clean up the image a little bit and convert it to black and white on a solid white background. And so it gave me this. And then I said, all right, chat, let's convert it to black and white only on a solid white background. One more thing though, can we make the ESTD on the left and the 2001 on the right, can we make that just a little bit more bold? And so you can see it gave us a perfect result. So that's going to be super simple to go in to Inkscape, turn into an SVG file for 3D printing. So let's see here. And then we went into an edit here on the logo. So you can see here, I said the black area above the horse's head, can we add some brown details, but keeping a small border between the new brown details and the existing brown details and the existing gray border around the horse. So you can see in this particular case, we were really specific of what we wanted, not specific enough, but we were really specific, and you could see the results that it gave us. It did give us the brown details that we were lacking. But you could see it also introduced some other details that we didn't want. And really what we wanted was just brown details, but only a single color of brown. So you could see in the brown details it added, it did leave us a border, and it left us a border between the existing brown details, but now we have multiple browns, and also it added multiple browns back into the horse head. So then we had to go back in and tell it to fix that, basically. So you can see I do like the details that are added. However, for the horse's head, we just want a single brown color only. So keep the details, but make everything just one single brown color. And then ultimately, we got what we were looking for. And each one of these prompts only takes a couple, 2-3 minutes. So we were able to get a very usable artwork. I am going to actually right click and save this because I did not save this version of this logo yet. But very easy to convert this into an SVG file for us now. And you can see it more or less is in keeping with what we were originally given for the logo, but just simplified it a little bit for our keychain. So that's it. That is how we use chat to get our artwork in shape and the more you use it, like I said, the more it will spit out the results that we are expecting the first time around. All those chats you see over here will help teach chat what we do. And the more we teach it, the more we can get to our expected result quicker. So now we can get on to actually making our stuff here. So I wanted to show you a little bit because I know you guys are probably interested in seeing the model builder a little bit. So these are some SVGs that I made earlier. And so, for example, I think we'll just go ahead and dump them all at once just to show you. We could do it one by one, or we could just take a whole heap and stack of SVGs. Could be one, could be 1,000, and just drop it on the model builder. And you'll see it will automatically, almost instantaneously create all of our files that we want. So we can come in here. Let's go to this one. So let's go ahead and open up a project here just so you can see what it created for us. So we are going to go to class files right here. And then we'll go into Urban Auto. And so, for example, if we want to open up the hype chain one, so you could see there's our completed hype chain model. Now, it's not totally complete because we still need to add the chain. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So we're going to, but the model itself is good to go. But now we're going to go ahead and hit Control I, go on the desktop here and just look for Cuban. And there's our Cuban chain. We're going to import the geometry only. We will move our prime tower in here. And then we're just going to take this, our Cuban, and shift control the assembly that was automatically created by the model builder and merge those two together. And now that hype chain is now complete. So you can see that is a real, genuine time saver. So now let's go ahead and take a look at a different SVG. Or well, actually, we're not looking at SVGs anymore. We're looking at the finished models. So we'll go back to Urban Auto. So we'll look at the keychain. So it's basically more or less the same SVG, but now it's in keychain form. So different proportions, different things going on. And then so to turn this into a keychain, obviously we still have to add our little key tag. So kind of like we did with our hype chain, we could just hit Control I, go to the desktop here, and we're going to type in key. Now this, for those that don't know, this little key tag is on our free Patreon. So just go to our post and search our post for key, and you'll find it. But then we just move up our little key tag here. Now, eventually, this is one of the things I don't want to have to do manually. So eventually there'll be a little button that will allow us to just take our SVG and a little button that says turn into a keychain, and it'll turn it into a keychain for us automatically. But in the meantime, it's now hard to do in Bamboo once we know. So there's our key tag, shift control our assembly, right click and merge. And now if we hit slice, there you go, got a perfect keychain model ready to print. So big time saver. Big time saver. All right, so let's go look at the last project, and I forget what it was now. Oh, it was a little medallion for the trophy, and hopefully we're gonna get to the trophy base here. But the trophy base we're gonna do in Blender. So, but we're gonna do an easy Blender, easy Blender, not hard Blender. And that basically the trophy badge is kind of sort of the same as the keychain, except it's tinier. That's the only difference. But it's ready to go. We can print that out and then stick it, glue it to our trophy base once we make it. So yeah. So that's that. And then we can go and take a look at one more file here. Because I think I did no, I must not have done the Buck Jeep yet. I didn't make the Buck Jeep SVG. So anyhow, so that is a little bit about the model builder. I guess I could show you one more because this was a crazy one. Let's see here. Let's see if I can, So these are a series of files, sample files that I've been running through the model builder with. But this SpongeBob we did in class, our last class, and you'll see it here when we open up the model. So this one takes a little bit of time to compute because there's a lot going on in this particular file here. But if I go and open that one up, this is a notebook cover that we did in class the other night. But you can see it's got a million colors, but also it has a million parts. I think there's 24 or 25 parts to this thing. So there's a lot of bits and pieces. And then to have to do that all manually here in Bamboo, after we create our SVG, yeah, we can do it, but you can see it's much quicker just to have it automatically done. We create the SVG in Inkscape, and then boom, model builder will make it happen for us. So we're getting there, but I've got a little bit more work to do. Did I see somebody with a hand up? I thought I saw somebody with a hand up. Any questions before we move on here? Tina?
How does it know the thickness?
Well, it defines that in the SVG file. So,
well, when we are in Inkscape, because I
yes.
remember when you first was showing it to us, it was like the little arrow going one way and then say two.
Exactly.
Okay,
right.
Just making sure.
Yep, that's how we tell it. Yep. So, and we'll do that. I'll get into that a little bit more when we go through the example. For those of you that may be interested in the model builder, I am right now. It does only work with Inkscape files, and really everybody should be using Inkscape anyhow. But because there's some diehards out there that refuse and they want to use Silhouette Studio, we will have a Silhouette Studio version too. So if you're making your SVGs with Silhouette Studio, then the model builder will be able to build those too. Sean, did you have a question?
Yes, I think I missed the first part. Okay, so the model builder, that's something that we can utilize. And you said I heard you saying something about the already Patreon members and then the newcomers. I came in on that end.
Okay, yeah. So we're gonna make an official announcement when we get a little bit closer to release. But essentially, the existing Patreon members, if you're on the baddie tier, you'll just get that as part of your membership. So whoever is an existing Patreon member, before we release it, then they're kind of grandfathered in. They're not going to pay any more for it. Now, newcomers, that might choose to be a member later on, then there'll be another tier that will include the software. But we're going to have another tier for all of our programs. So as long as if you're in a baddie now, any new program that we come out, then you're going to be grandfathered in. So all the new Blender tools we have coming, we have some new Inkscape tools that are coming. Those will just be part of your existing membership. But for new people who sign up, after we released all the various different things, then there'll be another tier for them. They'll pay a little extra to have the different software and whatnot.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Thank you, Kara.
Yeah, so you $20 people will still always be $20. I won't make you give me more money because, and I kind of said this in the last class, I really do appreciate the existing members. I don't know, we have like maybe 200 now, close to it. But it's because of you guys that have allowed me to not focus on making and selling designs, that have allowed me to focus on the computer to make all these things to begin with. So it's just giving back a little bit. So I appreciate you giving me the time to do it. And I think I mentioned this in the last class, I had made some computer software in years past and had to always pay out of my pocket. I did 2 different programs back in the day that were for the computer. And I spent a little over 2 years in development, but I never made a dime because Patreon didn't even exist back then. And I remember probably my very first years ago, I was a financial planner, and I sold stocks and mutual funds and whatnot. And I was a mortgage broker. We did a lot of mortgages and things like that. And so anyhow, we used, obviously we used a lot of math in financial planning. And I had I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this, but years and years ago, there was a BlackBerry. It was called a BlackBerry Storm. And it was a touchscreen And back then, touchscreen BlackBerry Storm was like, was the shit back then. And so anyhow, I created an app. That was my very first test of my programming skills, was creating a financial calculator for the BlackBerry Storm. And because it was such new technology, that touchscreen, it was the only BlackBerry that had a touchscreen. So that particular software was, there was lots of BlackBerries, but it would literally only work with the touchscreen version. And so, but when we were doing our financial planning, like everybody used the touchscreen BlackBerry, because that was the thing back in the day. So anyhow, so I made a financial calculator for the BlackBerry Storm, because we always use these Texas Instrument financial calculators, but you had to know the formulas in your brain. So if I wanted to find out, how much principal balance there would be if we made mortgage payments for 13 years and 6 months, what would my principal balance be? I had to know what the formula was. Well, with the BlackBerry, I could just enter in the numbers and click compute, and then it would tell me, but like in a form, I didn't have to remember the formula in my brain. So, and I worked on that for like maybe 8 months, but I had to pay the guy that helped me do the programming back then, and I had to pay all that out of pocket. So now with Patreon, everybody can chip in a little bit, and like I said, it gives me time to sit and figure it all out. I've learned so much just in a month's time about how Bamboo Studio works on the back end, and 3MF files, and it's been kind of crazy, like how much I've learned, just in a month's time. So who knows in a year's time what maybe we will come up with, because I'll know a lot more than I do now, I'm sure. So, all right, so let's go ahead and we'll get out of this, and let's go in and we'll take our first look at converting our logo, and maybe we'll start with the Buck Jeep logo. So before we do that, we have a little bit more work to do on Buck, and that is we have to go to the Vectorizer AI website, because it's this logo that we want to convert. Nice thing about the Vectorizer AI website is you just drag in your image, and that's all there is to it. There's no settings, there's no nothing. We just bring it in and click on download. And that's the kind of workflow that we want. Just click, and we're done, right? So we'll go ahead and save this. And then we'll open up that SVG that was created. And there's Buck Jeep right here. All right, so there's our logo. And you can see over here we have lots of groups. So we need to select everything. And we'll come over here to one of these groups. It doesn't matter which one. We'll just right-click and ungroup. And so you see, we've got a million different parts and pieces here. So the first thing we want to do is come up here to Path and choose Object to Path. And now what we have to do is we have to go through and turn off the pieces that we know we're going to keep. So for example, this black one, boom, right? And then we have this secondary black one. Go ahead and turn that off. And then we have this red one. And you know what? You see that little gap there? I want to experiment with something. There is a setting. Let's go back here and take a look. There is a setting here. They changed this interface, and I wish they wouldn't have. But there are some settings down here. So it says output size, draw style, which we do want filled shapes. We do want them stacked. We do want them grouped by color. See where it says represent simple shapes as circles, ellipses, and rectangles. We don't really need that. All of those options are good. What is line fit? It gives us a little, let's see here. In the event any curves that must be converted to one or more line segments, this section controls the cover fit quality of line. I don't know that we need all of that. So let's go back here. This is what I would want it to take a look at. Draw thin strokes along shape edges to hide the hairline gaps some renderers show between shapes. I don't think we want that. That may save us a little bit of work. Let's just turn that option off, and then we'll go ahead and click reset here. Let's see here. We want to make sure gap fill is turned off. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. And now if we download it, in theory, we should not have that little gap filler. So we'll see if it makes any difference here. So we'll try that again. So let's go ahead and just delete all these. We'll start fresh here. So open up. And there's our buck Jeep. All right. So gives us a bunch of pieces again. For some reason, they weren't grouped together this time, but I don't think it really matters for us. We still have some ellipses and rectangles, so I don't know exactly what happened there, but let's just see if it got rid of that line. So now it introduced something different here. I don't know why that's there. This, I'm pretty sure we don't need. So we're just going to get rid of that. Now, we can see, for example, these parts. So what we do is select one, shift select the other, Control K. So we should know our keyboard shortcuts by now. That is combine. And then we're going to shift click the B and Control minus, which is the same as if we went up to path and difference. So you can see it did change it to black. We're going to go ahead and shift click the BUCK here and Control K, make it all one, and then we'll just give it a gray color. Now let's go ahead and just give it a name here. So we'll call it buck text. And we'll just turn that off for a moment. And then we'll move on. So here, same thing. Shift select the P, Control minus, and then we'll select all these and Control K, and we'll make those red, and we'll call it Jeep text, and turn it off for a moment. And then we want to select all of our black bits here. So I'm just going to come across, and I'm just shift clicking as I go. Shift, 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 shift. This is one thing that next class will be resolved. We should be able to just click all those automatically in Inkscape, but we can't right now, but we will in our next class because I'm going to make a tool that will automatically do that for us. Just those little things that can save us some time. So we're going to hit Control K to combine all those into one piece, because when we do a cut, we can only do a cut from a single object. So now we're going to select all of our white. You can see we have all of our white selected, but we are going to shift select the black. And the reason being is I need to combine all these white bits into one. So we're going to hit Control K. And now we can take our black and shift click the whites. So we'll take our black here, shift select the white, and Control minus. That's not what I expected. So let's see what's happening here. Aha. So you see the black here. I guess we already did that on some of them, but not others. Yeah, that's interesting. But the black, you see, our cutter is below our text. And that's what the problem is. So we're going to take our black object, raise the top. The cutter has to always be on top. And then shift select the white and then hit control minus. And then let's see, it did it mostly, but not on our D. And I don't know what's happened here. Aha. You see that? That's interesting. All right. Well, let's go back and do that again. Devil's in the details. So you see our D. If we go into outline mode, oh, now we don't see it again. What's happening here? Now I really don't know what's happening here. Let's try and diagnose what's happening. So that's our white. And you can see that our D, so with our D is there on the whites. Let's do this. Let's take this. So I just double clicked on my white. See, sometimes we just have to have a little bit of Inkscape knowledge to diagnose little issues like this. But what we're going to do is select one of those interior nodes on the D, and then we're going to do path and reverse. And that didn't do anything. So let's take one of the nodes on the outside and do it. Path and reverse. Jill didn't like it. So let's do this. Well, let's break that white apart. And this piece right there, let's make it black. And let's shift select the rest of the black and combine those together. So now that piece right there is combined with all of our other pieces. And see if that makes a difference. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to select everything, shift select the black, and control K the white. And so now the white looks like this. The Bronco is cut. The Bronco there, that's already cut out. The A is already cut out. Everything's already cut out, but that D. Well, that's interesting. Yep, everything's cut out but the D. So you know what that means? We can just double click and get rid of all of this. Get rid of all those nodes, and we'll get rid of everything but the D. That was probably what the issue was. So now if we take that and shift select the D, control minus, ta-da. Devil's in the details. All right, so now this will be our small white text. And we'll turn that off. And then we can go ahead and shift select all these black parts. So we'll select one, shift select the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, and this one, control K to bring all those together. Let's see here. I guess we could have, let's look at this. That's interesting. We probably already have those cut, and I think I know why now. Previously, when I was using that vectorizer AI, I said to stack colors, and I hit the reset button, and so it didn't stack the colors. So that's why those are all cut through already. And I bet these here are already cut through too. See there? So everything's cut through already. I didn't think about that. So maybe that actually, not stacking the colors actually helps us. I don't know. So anyhow, that's what was happening there. So our tongue, let's go ahead and make that a shape and turn that off for the moment. And then what are we going to do here? Our teeth here. So you remember last class, we talked about making complicated selections. So we're going to go, we're in our selection tool. So that's this tool right here. And how we're going to select our teeth? Well, we're just going to hold the Alt key down, swipe through the bottom teeth, swipe through the top teeth. And now all of our teeth will be selected. Anything that was touching that red line is selected. And then we're going to hold our Shift key to select the eyeball. And then Control K. We'll turn that back to white. And this will be our white piece. And then we'll turn that off. And then we just have our horse and our grill. But we don't have all those little, by turning off the gap fill, we don't have all those little strings, those little deals there. So let's go ahead and just right click here and choose select same fill color and Control K, and that will be our grill. Okay, and then do the same thing here with the brown. There's several pieces of brown now, so we'll right click that and we'll choose select same fill color, and it's going to select all of our brown bits, and there's our horse, and we'll just make it brown again. Okay, so now let's just turn everything back on. So we're going to select our bottom piece here and then shift select our top one. And then we're going to come over here, any one of these eyeballs. We can click on any one of them and turn them on. Okay, so now they're all on. But this gray one here, which is this one. No, that's not it. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? Nope. Well, let's figure this out. So this one we don't need at all. That's the white one. We don't need that. Let's figure out where this gray piece is. That's the one piece we don't need. Oh, there is no gray piece. Is that what the problem is? Aha, okay. So this is because we didn't choose stack. See, I'm not used to this. I see now what's going on. Had we used stacked, this backplate would have been solid. But now it's not because we didn't choose that option. So no worries. So we're just going to take that and we'll go to path and break it apart. And now we have our solid backer. So then we'll do path and union. And now we'll have that solid back piece like we expected. Beautiful. So now we're going to make it 75 millimeters tall. So we have our lock turned on, and we're going to make it 75 millimeters tall because that's how tall we make the keychain. And with the lock on, when we change it tight, the aspect ratio will stay the same for the width. Okay, so there you go. Now, we're going to go ahead and let's make this our backplate piece. And then this is our red border. And yeah. So now, the magic, okay? We want to prepare this for the model builder, okay? So the way we do this, and this part, you know, you're going to have to just get used to, and you will get used to it as we go. But what we do, if we want a completed model, this is how you do it. We're making a keychain, okay? So when we're making a keychain, the back plate is 4 millimeters thick. So we just go ahead and double click right here, and we're going to go greater than 4. That's the greater than symbol, okay? So that will tell the model builder that we want it 4 millimeters thick, that piece, all right? Now, the rest of these pieces, for the keychain, we want 2 millimeters, okay? Now, I don't have a special tool where we could select them all and then just say, boom, make it 2 millimeters. I will when we meet again on Thursday. So that's one of the tools that I'm making for Inkscape to automate this whole process. But for now, we're just going to come in here and we're going to put that at 2. And this is the part that will take some time to get used to. Where do we want our red border in relationship to our backplate? In this case, and that's one of the reasons why I chose this as our test sample, just to show you and introduce you to this concept, is everything, all of these pieces is just going to be 2 millimeters thick, and the Z height is going to be 4. So you see that? It's greater than 2, greater than 4. That's our Z height. And that's how the software knows that we want that piece to be at 4 millimeters in the Z. Now, again, I don't think this will make much sense to you till we see the model. So let me just go in here and do that. So greater than 2, greater than 4, and maybe I will just save us a little bit of time and we'll save that. But like I said, I will have a tool that will do this portion of it for us automatically. We just select the layers and boom, it does it all. So we'll be able to specify the thickness and the Z height automatically for each of our pieces just by selecting them. But even doing this, it's not too bad. If you want to start, if you're doing SVG work right now and you want to start prepping your files with this syntax, go ahead, because then they'll be ready to go for the model build. Okay? So now let's go ahead and save this. So we're going to hit File and Save As, and we'll be kind of, let's go, we're going to do the Buck Jeep MB for Model Builder, okay? And hit Save. And then let's have the Model Builder build that file for us. Okay, so where's it at? There it is. That's the one we just made. And if we did it correctly, then the Model Builder should build it correctly. So we'll just drag and drop in the Model Builder. And there is the 3MF file. Now it's always going to create the 3MF file right next to the SVG that we dragged and dropped. So now if we open this up, so let's go over here and hit File and Open. And there it is, the Buck Jeep MB. And there's our model. Now, if we look at it more closely, you can see what I'm talking about here. We have this is our backplate, and we could see if we go to the Objects tab, it says backplate, it says red border, et cetera, right? So all the pieces that we had in our Inkscape file are all maintained, but we wanted the backplate to be 4 millimeters. So it is 4 millimeters. If we go to scale, you'll see it. It's 4 millimeters, right? And then any one of these other pieces that we select on, 2 millimeters, our horse is 2 millimeters, our white teeth was 2 millimeters, everything was 2 millimeters. Okay. And then for the Z height, that's the next consideration. I do not like my pieces, typically, I do not like my pieces to be extruded more than 1 millimeter above the previous piece. But especially in the case of white, if we were only to have our white 1 millimeter thick, there's a good chance, because white is kind of semi-transparent, there's a good chance we would see the black through the white. So if we click on this white, we're going to alt click here, you'll see half of that white is buried into the black. So the total thickness of my white is going to be 2 millimeters thick, right? So it's going to be 10 layers thick, if you think of it that way, with a 0.2 millimeter layer height. Be 10 layers thick versus only 4 layers thick. But because we told it to be at the Z height of 4, that's why half of it is inside the black and half of it is outside the black. And as soon as you kind of understand the Z heights a little bit better, then it all make more sense to you. But we kind of had the same challenge previously, right? When we would bring in an SVG, we still have to know the Z heights in Bamboo. So whether or not we assign Z heights in Bamboo or we just assign our Z heights in our SVG, it's literally the same. The only advantage to Bamboo, it's a little bit more visual. But the big takeaway here is, even if we don't get it right in the SVG, we could still just come over here. We can for sure get the thickness of each piece right. We can for sure do that. But as far as the Z height goes, that might be a little bit more challenging. But I want to show you what happens in the model builder if we don't specify the Z height at all. So that's what we'll go back in and do. So we'll go back here. So if we don't specify the Z height at all, we are going to specify the thickness. Okay, so we'll get rid of the Z height portion. I'm going to do that for each one. So I would consider this like maybe more for advanced users who understand the relationship of the z height from one piece to the next to the next. And the more files you start designing, the more you'll understand that z height relationship anyhow. So you could see here, all we've done is specified the extrusion value. Okay. So if we were to then, let's go ahead and rerun this. So let me make sure I save this file. I did. All right. So now if we rerun this file, that would be this one, and drop it into the model builder. It went ahead and created the file for us. So now let's go back in here and we'll hit File and Open. And we'll reopen that same file that we just were in. And now you can see what it did there. All the pieces are just 2 millimeters, so it did all the extrusions correctly, right? But now all these pieces are sitting on top of, so if we select one of them and go here, you could see it says 5, right? So everything is just sitting on top of the build, the back plate. So we would just go back in and make it 4. And we could just do it manually each piece. So that's the only difference. Like it's you know, it's just an extra little step here. But like I said, the more you understand your various Z heights, then you could just define it in the SVG and not worry about it no more. But if you do need to change something, you know, it's just a matter of selecting the various pieces here to change it back to 4. So we'll go ahead and do all of those. And then we'll put on our key tag. And actually, I guess we already did that, maybe. I don't remember. So we'll just go ahead and do it real quick. I don't remember if we did the finished keychain with this one. All right, so yes. Now all those pieces are correct. So then we'll go ahead and import our key tag. And like I said, eventually this will be automated for us. I don't want to have to do this anymore. So we'll just, in the model builder, we'll make a key tag, and then we'll just make a key tag and be done with it. So Shift Control, right click and merge. And so now that's ready to go. Ready for printing. We can tuck it down here. That's what I usually do, is I tuck it down here and then copy and paste like so. Then this one, there's no room because of our prime tower here. So we'll just select that, shift select all these, and right click and center. Center those to the build plate. And then it looks like we have, what do we have here? We've got 2 reds. So we need to fix that. This one should be color number 2 as well. So that will, our 6 here should be 2. What do we got going on here? Oh, I see what I did. I made all my copies. That's what I did. So let me get rid of these again. And I'm just going to focus on this. Looks like we have 2 whites as well. So we don't want 2 whites. So that's color number 4. And this should be color number 4 as well. And looks like we have 2 grays as well. There you go. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's as good as it's going to get on this particular logo. So we will need 2 AMSs, or we'll have to make some sacrifice of some sort in the logo. But I don't know how we're going to sacrifice a color there. So we'll just go with that.
You could just put a color on the outside reel. You get an extra one. You can do 5.
But can you use the
Yeah, you can use both at the same time. Technically, you can do 5 colors at a time, at least on the P2S. I don't know about the A1 or the P1.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
didn't know you could use the.
Yeah, it's got a dual input on the back, one for the outside reel and the other one for the AMS.
Oh, okay.
So you get a total of 5. Sorry, I'm late to the party. Hi, everybody. Quick question. Lately, you've been embedding all your layers like 2 millimeters deep. And I don't remember you ever doing that before. Does it matter? Because it really does add time and color changes. Does it have to be? Is there a reason you've been going deeper with your embedding of the
Well,
layers?
yeah, I mean, yes and no. So let's it's a fair point. Let me show you. So let's back up here with this logo, and let's copy and paste one. So this one is the new and improved way. This is what I normally would do, but let's talk about what you're talking about. So in this case, yeah, let's just go ahead and change this to only be. So I only want this to sit 1 millimeter above my black, first of all. Okay. So if I'm going to do that and not have it embedded, then I have to make it 1. And then half of 1 is 0.5. So the Z height there should be 4.5. Okay. So now that piece is no longer embedded. It's sitting on top. And we're going to do the same thing to our red here. So that has to become 1. And then that has to sit at 4.5. Okay. Now, and then this gray piece, let's go ahead and change that to 1 and sit that at 4.5. And then what else do we need? Let's do the red. I'll sacrifice the red, and we'll put that at 4.5. Now, the white, I can't give you the white. The white has to be, I really feel like the white has to be embedded. And the reason being on the white is because if it was only 1 millimeter thick, white tends to be kind of semi-transparent at only 1 millimeter thick. And there's other colors too, even gold and yellows and, you know, lighter colors in general. They're kind of semi-transparent at only 1 millimeter thick. And so I would rather just have it 2 millimeters thick and not have to worry about that. So in this case, because we have these white small details, we're going to leave those embedded. And that's the other reason to embed them is in this case, like if you take this this gray here, right? The gray is sitting on top of black now, but it's very thin. This gray is very thin. And so what happens is there's not much contact between the gray and the black, right? Because it is so thin. So, and this is going to be a keychain, which is going to be rattled around in your pocket, right? So it's got to be somewhat robust. So that's another reason to embed this, because there's not much surface area right now. That piece could probably break off pretty easily because it's barely touching the black. Where if it was embedded in the black, then you have black, like totally surrounding it. So there's many layers of black totally surrounding this 5 layers of black that surround the gray, so it's less likely to snap off. So when we're dealing with very small pieces, that's another reason why I would embed it. But what we want to test here is we want to test this fully embedded versus this one not so much, right? The only thing that's embedded over here is the white. So let's just see what the difference is. So if we slice this one, it is 1 hour and 49 minutes, 35 color changes. Okay, now, and what's happening here is, first of all, we have 5 colors right? And it is, 6 or 8 millimeters deep, and we have lots of colors on the same layer, and some of that we can't escape, right? Even though like 1 millimeter on the gray, but we also have red on the same layer, and we also have white on the same layer. So it really wouldn't matter in this case, even the bedded layers, because we have brown, we have gray, we have white, and we have red switching back and forth for 5 layers. You can see it right here. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, what, about 6 layers there? You see that? So we can't really escape those color changes, unfortunately, not on this design. But I mean, I guess we could if we redid the design. So, but that's that's a little bit more deep in detail. But I want to compare that to this. Okay, so here we have we only have the white embedded. So we will save time, but the question is, how much time are we going to save? And we'll save color changes too. So I forgot what we had over here. What do we have over here? Let's look again. We had 35 color changes. I don't think it's going to be very dramatic, but it'd be worth taking a look. So here, it's 1 hour and 38 minutes. And we only have 30 color changes. So that's why, to me, it's really not that big a deal. Because
Yeah, I thought it would have been more dramatic. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the amount of time we save is not that dramatic, nor is the number of filament changes that dramatic.
Or the waste. Yeah.
Yeah. So so that's why, generally speaking, I just embed everything. Because I do think it gives a better finished print, and we're not sacrificing a whole lot. Now, in this particular example, we're talking about a keychain, right? But so it's small. But if we were to, if let's just do it once, just to test this. So we're going to go and make multiple copies on this plate, and we're going to get rid of that one. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Yeah, but we don't want that. That's a good lesson. We want to be over here on this build plate. It's whatever our active build plate is. When we copy and paste, it'll paste to the active build plate. I don't know why it stopped down there now, but let's just move these up here. Oh, I see why it did. Let me just back this off. I see why it did what it did. This one wasn't tucked way down here. So now we'll paste it. And there is an option, because everybody will say, well, how come you just don't use the right click and fill bed with copies? Well, if you ever try doing that, you'll know why I don't do that. Because it will fill bed with copies, but it won't do it in a way that my OCD likes. So I like it more precise. All right. So now let's go ahead and slice this. And this is where we see things are a little bit different now. Because
Actually, I don't know if it changes much. The more you do, I think it's the same, because it's all printing the same time.
oh yeah, you're right. I mean, you could be right about that. So
Yeah, it's the same thing. You're just making it's still doing the exact same amount of color changes because it's doing them all at once.
yes.
If you were doing them one at a time, you'd have a big difference.
Right. So okay. So this is 7 hour and 13 minutes. So you're saying that this should be roughly proportionally the same.
It's going to be 30 color changes and whatever the time multiplied by 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 7 hours and 16 minutes, and this will be 7 hours and. I don't. Okay. So yeah. So the difference is about 30 minutes. Because that was 7 hours and 16 minutes, and this is basically 7 hours. You see what I mean? So even on a grander scale, in this particular example, having it embedded, it's not really hurting you. It's only incrementally. It's just a few minutes. So I feel like I did some for a bar here that I you know, I really my day job used to be doing custom woodworking, and I always would give a little something. So sometimes I would embroider a hat or something, like when I deliver a finished product. Well, anyhow, you asked why I started embedding everything. Well, I made this local bar here in Kansas City. I made them a bar, and then when I delivered the bar, I also gave them like a dozen keychains with their logo on it. And I didn't embed the top. And later on, the bar owner said, "Hey, appreciate the keychains, but the letters are all popping off." And so I told him to send me a picture, and they were popping off right there where the two colors connected. That's a weak point right there, because the filament cools, right, and then it switches colors, and then it starts again. And so there's a weak spot there at that connection point of the color. And if it's going to fail, that's where it's going to fail first. And so that's what was. So he sent me some pictures, and sure enough, the letters were really tiny because it was a keychain. And so, but then I redid the keychains and I just embedded them. And then I asked him, you know, a couple months later if he was still having issues. And he said, no, these are fine. So that's why I embed everything now, because I feel like it's a little bit more sturdy. So what we'll do here is we'll delete all these, and I'll resave this file. That'll be our finished file right there. Okay, so Buck Jeep is done and dusted here. So now we can move on to our next one. And our next one here, we're going to go ahead and look at the Urban Auto. And let's see here. I forgot. Inkscape does not like chat created artwork. So we go into Urban Auto here and we can open up. This is what we got out of chat. We're going to just right click and copy it, but it does not like to import PNG files created by chat. So we just open it up, right click, copy, and then right click and paste. And then we're going to right click again and trace the bitmap. Because it's black and white, we don't have to touch nothing. We simply, very easy. And there is our vector version of our artwork. Okay. And then let's go ahead and change it to our finish size here, which is going to be for a keychain again. That's mainly what they were wanting to do, I believe. So we'll make it 75 tall. And so it'll be a 3-inch keychain, just like before. We're going to go to path, and we're going to choose break apart. And the very top piece, so right here, it's always the top piece. Well, this one actually is the bottom, isn't it? Let's see here. Yes, it's already at the bottom. Beautiful. So we can just give it a color. And we're going to just turn that off and then go into outline mode. Now, this is kind of a special case a little bit because we have this border. So we're going to take that piece and shift click this one and Control K, that's combine. And we're going to do same thing here to the target. The inside path, shift click the outside path, Control K. Okay, then we could turn that off. And this path here, we'll select it and turn it off too. And now we're left with this. So let's go back to normal mode so we could see this. And so what we want to do here is hold down our Alt key, and I want to select all of my Urban Auto and all of my task force. I want all of that to be one. So we're going to Alt click and just drag through. See there? And drag through here. And then come down here and drag through here. And whatever that red line touches is going to get selected. Okay. Now you see this? This accidentally got selected. So we're going to shift click and get rid of that. Okay. Now, sometimes what I like to do is to see what I have selected more easily, just give it a color that we can see. And if we look at everything here, does it look like we got everything? Well, sure, it does. So let's go ahead and hit Control K, that's combine. And all those pieces that were on the inside, because I had selected all of those when I went through, then it cut the whole back in the B and the A's and the O's and so on. Okay, so that will be our text. So we'll just double click and type in text, and then we can just turn that off. And then this text will be its own. Control K, and we'll do UATF. That's how we'll name that one. And then this text, shift click this text, and then that will be its own separate object. So we'll just type ESD 2021. Okay. And then so we can turn this all back on now and see what we got going on. So there's our logo. So we're going to come in here with our backplate, greater than 4. Okay. The first object in our list, we don't have to specify the Z height. Okay, because the software will automatically assume that that is going to sit on the build plate. So here we're just specify the extrusion. So then here we're going to specify the Z height, or excuse me, the extrusion thickness, which is 2. And because we're going to embed this into our backplate, the Z height becomes 4. Okay. And this is true. UATF, we're going to do something different just to show you we can. That thickness is going to be 2, but the, or excuse me, 3, but the Z height we are going to put at 4.5. Okay, just to show you some differences here. And then what is this? This is our target. We'll call that our target. And really the target and the outside border, those two can be one. So let's go ahead and hit Control K, and then we'll just call it border. And our border is going to be 2 millimeters thick. And its Z height is going to be embedded. So we're going to do 4. And then finally, our main text here, extrude 2 and Z height of 4. Okay, so that's it. So this one is now done. So we're going to go ahead and save this. And we'll save it to the desktop here. We'll call it Urban Auto MB. That is set for the model builder. And then we can go ahead and minimize this. And there is our SVG, drag and drop. And our model's created. So let's go back over here and open it up. Let's see, there it is, Urban Auto MB. So there you go. You can see it's all ready to go for us. Everything is, and remember here, we made that center text. Let's go ahead and all click that so we can scrutinize that a little bit. We made it 3 millimeters thick, so we made it a little bit thicker than everything else. You could see it is embedded, but you could see the Z height for that particular one is 4.5, where everything else was 4, right? But all these other parts, again, this lettering is kind of small, so all those other parts are embedded. Okay, yeah, the border's embedded, everything else is embedded. So now we can come in here and go ahead and add our key tag again. Geometry only. And we'll slide this back out. Now we only want this to pop out here just enough to add our jump ring to it. And we don't need it to be popped out any farther than that. So we'll go ahead and select that, shift control the assembly, right click and merge. And pop it down here. And we can paste some copies. And then we have to delete this one because we got to have room for our prime tower. So there's our prime tower. And then we'll shift select all of these, get it all nice and centered up, and then we can save that. And now our keychain's done. So now there's real incentive to understand those Z heights, because if we could specify all that in the model builder or in the SVG so the model builder can interpret that, well, that's going to be a huge time saver. I'll show you another one here. Let's see here. Let me open up the SVG just so you can see this. Tina, you got a question? Uh-oh, Deuces Up Embroidery just entered the chat. We're going to be doing embroidery here in a minute. You might want to stick around to the end of class. We're going to show you how to do it right here in Inkscape. So I wanted to show you just a little bit different type of design. So this is backwards. I just noticed that. So let's just mirror that. That's kind of weird. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. I just noticed that was backwards. But this is we did a class the other day for another group, and this is what we did in class for them. So this is a base for a pay stand where you had QR codes for Cash App and Venmo and Instagram, I think it was. But anyhow, I think I showed you that at the top of class. But this was the SVG file that we created. So for the model builder to kind of more or less automate the process of creating the design, we have like a special syntax that we use for the model builder. So the model builder looks at the SVG and it looks at the syntax that we developed for it, and that's how it knows how to build the model automatically for us. So in this case, if we look at this piece here, it is going to be extruded 4 millimeters thick. It's going to be placed at the 24 millimeter Z height. But you see here, it's going to be rotated in the X position at 90 degrees. Now, this may seem like complicated, but really once you get it, it's really not so complicated. So why, first of all, we can understand the extrusion thickness is 4 millimeters, right? That part everyone should be able to understand. It's the Z distance that people struggle with primarily. So why is this Z distance 24? Well, here's how you calculate it, okay? And it's relatively simple once you get it. So first of all, this piece is 40 millimeters tall. So we always take whatever the height is of the piece, which is 40, and we cut it in half, which is 20. And because we want this piece to sit on our 4 millimeter base, that's why the Z height's 24. Okay, so that's, and the box sides, this is the box sides. We want those extruded 40, but that's why its Z value is 24, because half of 40 is 20 plus our base plate. That's why it's at 24. The front lip, we want that to be extruded 10 millimeters. Half of 10 is 5 plus the 4 millimeter plate that it's going to sit on. That's why that's 9. And our back lip, we want that extruded at 90, and half of 90 is 45 plus the 4 millimeter back plate. That's why that Z value is 49. So it's complicated, but it's not complicated. You know what I mean? you're going to be using these exact same values if you were just doing it in Bamboo Studio. So what we're trying to eliminate is our work. And once we understand like how it's supposed to work, then we can define everything right here in Inkscape. Boom, our model's complete. Okay. So I want to show you when we run this through. So I'm gonna just save this file, save as. I want to make sure I'm using the right file here. So we're just going to add a MB extension to it. So this one is going to be, I want to show you, how this is generated. But we also have in this specialized syntax that we're developing for the model builder, we are going to first define extrusion thickness, then we're going to define the Z height distance, and then we're going to define any rotation. So we can rotate it in the X axis, the Y axis, the Z axis, and we can rotate it to any value. So it doesn't, 90, 90.2, whatever rotation value you want. You just define it right here and it will do it. Okay. So let's go ahead and run that file through the model builder and take a look at the model, and then you'll get a better idea of what's going on here. So now we could take this and drag and drop it into the model builder. And then we could just open that model here in Bamboo. So let's go ahead and do that. So on our desktop here, there it is. Remember last class how much I was struggling with this? Just to even show you an idea, a concept here. And I mirrored this and I shouldn't have. You see that? I mirrored that and I shouldn't have. Oh, well. I shouldn't have mirrored that. It was right to begin with. I don't know why I thought it wasn't. But anyhow, so you could see it did, this piece is extruded 4 millimeters. It did rotate it in the X axis. The X axis is left to right, okay? And then the Z axis is kind of flat. So if I select this and select this one by itself and I go to rotate, you see the Z axis is like flat on the build plate, but the red axis, right, it goes this way. And so as long as you know what is what, X and Y and Z, then you'll know if you need a part rotated, which way to define it in your SVG. And so to finish this, all we have to do is go to our assembly tool and select the front face of our box and the front face of this, zero these two values out. Bob's your uncle. That model is now complete. See? So a lot less work if we can just define it in the SVG. And once you start actually doing it, and you'll get the hang of what you should be defining in the SVG. And if you define nothing, if you don't want to, you don't have to define Z heights. So if the Z height value is not there in the SVG, it'll just stack them automatically for us. So then we can come in here and fine tune the exact stacking order in Bamboo still visually. But eventually you want to get to the point where you can just do it in Inkscape. Okay. So let's see here. Boom, boom. We got the first two projects complete there. So let's go and move on to the next one. Now, the next one, we've got to go back out to the web. So let's do that. I can get to the web. There it is. And this is what we need. We need the old vectorizer AI, because we didn't vectorize this one. So let's go ahead and click on the image. Let's go to our class files here. And this is, yeah. So this is our modified one. No, it's not either. Let's cancel that. Let's go, let's see, because we made some changes that I forgot about. So then we did a new one. That's what we need, this one. It more or less did what I asked it to do. So let's save that to the desktop. And this one, we're just going to actually copy the image and then go right into the, because you can paste it. So we'll just paste it in here. Let's see here. There we go. Tina, did you have a question? I see your hand up. But I don't know, maybe you already asked the question. Okay, so that is the logo. So it's now vectorized. But you know what? Before I do that, let's go back in and take a look here. I see cutouts.
Did they change this website?
They did. This part here I don't like as much as we're going to group by color. Yeah, I don't like the new interface here. They changed it up a little bit. It's not a huge deal, but yeah, it's a little bit different than it used to be. Okay, we're going to just call this baseball logo. And for those that you don't know, this website does not have like a demo version. So, but it's totally worth it. It's $10. And I have the Creative Fabrica annual membership, and it has a vectorizer AI in it too. But I don't know. I think this one is just a little bit better. So I just use this one. Tina, did you have a question?
I'm sorry, I had to change notebooks because I think my microphone wasn't working. But my question was, do you have a date that you're going to release your app? Because I think we're all on the edge of our seat waiting for this release.
Well,
I'm gonna ask, 'cause I mean, I know everyone want to know when is the release date. We wanted it yesterday.
We all want to know when and how much.
Well,
I don't even care how much. I feel you should just charge me. Give my credit card number.
Okay,
Here.
$429. No, I'm just kidding. I know you got in here a little bit late, but no, there's going to be no charge. So whoever's a baddie today, it's going to be part of your Patreon membership. So you won't have to pay anything extra for any of our add-on tools. If you're a early adopter, now those who choose to be a member later on, we'll have a separate tier for them. So it'll be $20, and then we'll have probably a $30 tier, which will include all of our automation tools. The automation tools for the model builder, but also we're working on some Blender automation tools that will be coming down the pipeline, and also some automation tools for Inkscape. So, but those tools will all be kind of bundled in. But if you're a baddie member today, then there's no additional charge for you guys. As far as when, so here's my plan. In the next few days, I have a couple of beta testers. We're going to go through and test it. I don't want to release it to the world and then have all kinds of issues. Well, this didn't work and that didn't work. So I want to be able to thoroughly test it. And so I want to give them a few days to thoroughly test their SVGs. And then we'll have our first beta release for everybody to test.
Does that make you now the Patreon saint of 3D printing?
Maybe, I don't know. But I was telling people earlier, Zach, I was telling them, I said, the reason I want to give the existing baddie members the software at no charge and the automation tools at no charge was because it's because of your membership. You know, the little $20 everybody's pitching in allowed me to take time away from my regular business so I could even create the tool to begin with. So I haven't had to worry about making money. I've got enough memberships people to cover my bills so I can focus on software and automation, because at the end of the day, anything to simplify our life, we want to be able to create quicker. And I feel like that's these tools that we're making, that's our main focus. You know, we don't want to complicate the pipeline. We want to simplify the pipeline. And so, yeah, we have to understand the layer convention in Inkscape so that the model builder will build the model the way we want it. So we do have to know that, but after we learn that, then the rest of the process should be so much smoother. So anyhow, now I forgot where I was.
You were downloading that.
Oh, that's right. I was, yeah, I made some changes, blah, blah, blah. And let's see here. I'm just going to re-download it. Make sure we're using the new modified version. Our baseball logo. All right. So now we'll open up our baseball logo. Yes, we have our groups back, so that's good. So we will take our design here, right click over any one of these groups, so we can ungroup. And we may have to do it numerous times, but in this case, not so much. So we'll go ahead and delete this white background. We know we don't need that. And then we can start in on hiding the parts that we know we're going to keep. So we know we're going to keep this black. So let's turn that off. And we know we're going to keep that green. So we can turn that off. And we know we're going to keep this gold. Now this is just one little bitty piece of the gold. So what do we want to do here? Let's take all of the gold. So we're just going to select one. And we'll select same fill color. And for now, we're just going to turn it off. We're not going to combine it. We're not going to go crazy just yet. So we're just going to turn it off for now. And I got to make a decision here. I want to take this piece and turn it off. And because I don't think we need that piece that I just turned off. So let me undo that. And that piece, what is it? We'll call it maybe delete. I don't think we need it, but I want to be able to find it if I do need it. All right, but I don't think we do. So if we turn on the black, and then we turn on that. Okay. So that tells me something right there. We do need that. See that right there? We do need that, but do we need that? Okay, let's go back here. And I don't think we need this. So let's do it this way. So let's take this black that I don't think we need, and let's cut our green. So Control minus. Nothing changed. So now we just have a cut piece of green. And then we have our black. So I think we're on the right track here. So let's take care of these pieces. So we're going to select this one, shift click the white, Control minus. We're going to do that for all of these, Control minus. So definitely learn your keyboard shortcuts. Makes things so much easier. Control minus, Control minus. So shift click, Control minus. So that's the takeaway for today. This one here, same thing, Control minus. That's going to cut all your holes for you. Same thing as using the path menu and difference, okay? So if you don't like keyboard shortcuts, there's only 5 to learn, really. The union, which is Control plus plus, difference, which is Control plus minus, and then division, which is Control /, and then your bonus ones are Control K for combine, and then Shift Control K for break apart. Really, that's it. I mean, if I had to know shortcuts, those are the ones I'd really put to memory. And honestly, probably Alt Q. That switches from regular view to outline mode. So I probably would know that. I'd like to know that too. Okay, so let's go ahead and select all of our white, and I'm pretty sure we can combine all of our white. So we're going to right click on a piece of white, and we'll choose select same fill color, and we'll go ahead and Control K, and that is going to be white. So let's go ahead and make that white. Turn it off. And then everything else. So we're going to go ahead and right click same fill color. I think all that can go together. Better late than never, right? Sean just entered the building. And then same thing here. Select same fill color, and we're going to Control K. But we're going to take this, and we're going to shift click this and combine it all. Okay, so there you go. So now that is all one piece. And then what's left here? So we've got some pieces that are not turned off, and I don't know what they are. I have no idea. So we'll just delete all the little specks and spobs. And then we could turn everything back on, except that last one that we created. I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because this might be one particular that we might want to make a little bit different. So we're going to break this apart, and then we'll talk about why we might want to do this. So let's do path and break apart. And what I want to do is these pieces in particular, I want those to be a separate shape. And then also the stars, I wanted those to be separate too. Okay, so we'll turn that off, and then we'll turn this off too. And then let's just take all of these and Control K to combine. You see all the interior parts of our B kind of gone away. And so when you have this interior island, that's where you want to use combine. And so you see those parts are now cut back through again. All right, so there we go. That's all of our pieces. Now what we want to do is we want to see if we can simplify this a bit. So let's turn everything on. So there is our logo again. So let's just start naming parts here. So this is our back plate. And what are we doing here? Oh yeah, he was making a hype chain. So that's 8. That's I think my back plate on my hype chain's 8. And I'll explain why here in a second. So those are 8. And then this is our green plate. We'll just call it green plate, and I'll make it 2, and I will make it, what will I make it? Let's go ahead and do 9. Why 9? Okay, so the way this is going to sit, our green plate is 2 millimeters thick, half of 2 is 1, and we're going to top of our 8 millimeter back plate. So that's why the Z height is going to be 9. Okay, so we can go ahead and turn. Do I want to turn those off? No, let's just leave them on. I believe, let me look at this a little bit more closely, but I believe all of our gold can in fact be one piece, but we're not going to have it be one piece. And I'll explain why here in a second. So what pieces do I want to be what? I want this gold piece right here. And then I want this gold piece. And then I want this gold piece. If I toggle those on and off, that's a good way to make sure that I have selected what I wanted selected, and I do. So now I can combine those, and let's just call it M gold. I want those to be, let's just make it 3. And then for the Z height, okay, where is the gold sitting? Can you tell where the gold is sitting? The gold is sitting right on top of black. So for the Z height then, we would take half of 3, which is 1.5, and we're going to add it to our back plate, which is what the black is. So that would make the Z height here at 9.5 millimeters. Okay, and we'll look at this more closely when we get into bamboo, but that's what that is. Okay, and then what do I want to do? I think I want to take, let's go ahead and take this piece of gold and this piece of gold. Let's see. What do we got going on here? No, that's green. We don't want green. Okay, I want that piece of gold, and then shift click this piece of gold. Same thing over here, here, and here. And then we want these pieces too. Okay, so we're just shift clicking those pieces. We can toggle them on and off, make sure we got what we wanted. And we do. So we're going to hit Control K to combine. And this is going to be our back gold. And the back gold is going to be 2 millimeters thick. And it is going, just for fun, let's set that at, what do we want to set that at? Let's go ahead and set that at 9. So because we're setting that at 9 and it's 2 millimeters thick, it is going to be embedded into our back plate 1 millimeter. Okay. And if we turn this off, this back gold off, we should only see black behind this. Okay. So let's verify that. And we don't. You see that? We see black behind some of it. And this is something that you really have to pay close attention to. So we have black behind some of it, but not black behind all of it. And really, we need it one way or the other. So I am just going to go ahead and take this back gold. We'll duplicate it. And then we're going to shift click the green and hit Control minus. And now when we turn off our back gold, now you only see black behind it. So this gold really is going to sit on this back plate. But here's what I want to do. I want to make sure, this is just me thinking. And when we're creating artwork, we really have to think in 3D. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to get the look that we want to get when we do get to bamboo. So what I want to do here, the green, did we already specify the green? We did. So the green here, we've got it 2 millimeters thick, and we have it embedded. So the green is sitting above the black 1 millimeter. Well, I want the gold sitting above the green by 1 millimeter. But the gold is sitting on the black. Okay? So what does this mean for us? Well, we can, if I want this to be 1 millimeter, so we could set this to 3. We can leave the Z height at 9. Because you see down here, this is only 2 and 9. So now we're going to set this at 3 and 9. So this gold will sit proud of our green. And that's what I want, just, for visual looks. So that's taken care of. So what's our next piece then? Our next piece here is, what is that piece? Aha. So that is our gold at the bottom here. And so we're going to take the gold ribbon and we're going to shift click this piece too and add to it. And I do want this also to be protruding more than the rest of this. So let's do this. Let's go with so this is going to be our gold ribbon. And we're going to make it 3. And then let's go ahead and make it 9. Yeah, let's see here. What do I want to do? Let's make it 10, just for fun. And then we'll get to see what it looks like when we go over to bamboo. Now let's just make sure. Let's explain the calculation to make sure that 10 will even work. Okay. So let's make sure 10 will work. I don't think 10 actually will work. Not when this is only 3. Half of 3 is 1.5. And this ribbon, this gold, is sitting on top of our our backplate, our black backplate, and the backplate's only 8. So half of 3 is 1.5. So in order for the gold ribbon to sit on this plate, the maximum Z height can only be 9.5. So if we don't want that, we have to make this a little bit thicker. So now if it's 4, now that works. Okay, but before 10 would not work. So what's going to happen here? Well, this is going to be 4 millimeters thick, and we have the Z height at 10. Okay, so half of 4 is 2, and 8 and 2 is 10. So 2 millimeters of this 4 will be embedded into the 8. So we can make this 11. And now only 1 millimeter will be embedded. Now I know that's confusing right now, but when we get to bamboo, you'll see it. And what we're going to do when we do release this, we're going to have a bunch of SVG models as examples. So you can look at the model, look at the SVG file, see the syntax that we're using, and be able to say, okay, this is what the SVG file is saying to do. This is the result that we're getting from the model builder. And then you'll be able to kind of apply that logic to whatever project you're working on. And the more you use it, the more it'll start making sense. And, hopefully, right? Hopefully. And who knows, we may come up with a whole new system later on. But for now, I think this will work pretty good. So what's next here? Next is our green middle portion here. So we'll call this the green logo. And we want we're going to go ahead and make 4, and we'll do it at 11 too. Okay. And then what else we got? We got our stars. Okay. I don't know why I wanted to do the stars separate, but we will. So we'll do stars. We'll make them 3, and we will make them 10. Okay. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen with our stars doing this? Well, if we were going to set our 3 millimeter stars on top of 8, right? Then the Z height would be 9.5. So that's the maximum that this can be, 9.5. So let's see here. I want those embedded though. So let's just make them 9. They're going to be 0.5 millimeter embedded into our back plate, and that'll be fine. So our stars, and then finally, what do we got left here? Our white, right? No. We've got our white down here. Is that all of our white? It is. All right, so we did not specify the extrusion or the Z height. So now we have that. So this piece then is what? Aha, that's a different part of green. So we'll call it baseball green.
Kevin, if you isolate that baseball, the green, you're going to see some very thin lines where the cut across to the white is that may not print well.
Actually, yeah, I did see that when I zoomed in closer, but I don't think that's going to be a huge deal because, I mean, it's absolutely microscopic. But we will talk about how to fix that. So, it's a fair point to make. Like I said, I don't think it would really be a problem because it's just so tiny, but I will show you how to fix it. Might as well go ahead and fix it. It's easy enough to do. So that green is going to be 2, and we'll make it 9. So let's show you what Zach was talking about here. So we can see this. Let's go into outline mode. So this is what he's saying. There's just this is a better example. See how that's a little sloppy and messy? It's very microscopic. Let's see if we could see it. I don't even know if it's worth messing with, honestly. It's difficult. I tell you what, let's do this. Let's turn off our black, and then we could probably see it better. Maybe. It's tough to see.
It's on the B and the E. The B,
The-
the E.
The B and the E.
It's the other B.
The other B. All right.
Right there, that thin line and the E.
There's a thin line there. Yeah. My eyesight is I think because I'm gonna say it's so microscopic, but okay. Let's just and you
I'm
said
talking
where
about the green line, where this separates the green from the white. It's very thin right above the cutout right there.
oh this.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. I got you. Okay, well that makes more sense now. Yes, that's a good point to make. We'll see. We'll see what it does. But yeah, you're right. That could be problematic, but we'll see what happens when we go to slice it. I get your point now, though. Okay, so yeah, that might be something that we could have fixed in the artwork earlier. Now, you know what? We're here to learn, right? So let me go ahead and just show you how to fix it. But we won't. Let's do this. Let's turn everything back on because this will be a good learning point. Is we'll just copy it over here. So let's just take a look at this. So what we have to do this is first of all we have to break apart the green. So let's do that. So we'll break apart this green. I didn't. Whatever I did, I'm gonna undo because I didn't mean to do it. So we're going to take our green here and we're going to break it apart again. What's split path? I don't think I've ever used that. Splits path into non-overlapping sections. Interesting. I've never used split path before. Anyhow, we're going to break it apart. I wonder if I wanted to do that now. Let's go ahead and let's turn off everything that we don't need. So where's this duplicate happening? We're going to grab a new layer and we're going to take everything and we're going to move it to that layer. This is always a good practice when we're making multiple logos on one layer here. So there's our new layer, and then all these pieces, for whatever reason, were never on a layer. Oh, now what in the world here? Let me back up here. Let's back up a few steps. We'll create a couple of layers. So that logo should be on layer 1. And then this logo should be on layer 2. There we go. That's the right way to do it. And then we'll just turn that one off. All right. So to answer the question, so now what we want to do is turn off the bits that we don't need for this operation. We don't need M gold, back gold. We don't. We do need our white. What is all of this? Well, that's all our green parts. But we don't need this. Okay, I guess we'll just stick with that. Turn all that off. And let's break apart our white. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. And then we'll turn off all of those. And we'll just make a big selection here. And we'll turn all of that. So now we're just focused on what we got going on here. So we're going to take all of this and we're going to try to Control K that together. Hey, look at there. Worked just fine. So now we just have one piece here, okay? So what we can do is we can control where the cut happens a little bit better this way. So we're going to grab our pen tool and it doesn't really matter where we do it. We're just going to click and then hold our Control key and come over here and then right click. That will end it, okay? Now, does it have a border? It does not. Or if it does, it's very microscopic. So we're going to shift click any one of these colors. And now you can see a little tiny border, but let's make it a little bit bigger just so we can see this a little more easily. So stroke style, Let's just maybe make it 2 millimeters. Doesn't need to be super thick. But what we're going to do here is grab our node tool here, and we're just going to massage this. So we're just going to move this up. Now we don't want to fill. That's going to complicate matters. So turn off our fill. But we want to look and see where this line is actually cutting. And in a perfect world, we want it to be cutting just above right there. Okay. But we have to look at other areas of the design. Is it going to be a problem if we leave it, where we've got it going on here? If we click on these ends, we can't see any control handles, but we can turn those on up here. And so now we have these control handles. We can more easily define exactly where we want that cut to happen. So you see there, we still have a thin piece right there. So that could be problematic. So we'll just give it, and we also want to be mindful of this one. So you can kind of but now we also have to be mindful of this too. So we've got a couple things that we want to be mindful of. So we're going to give a little bit more thickness there. We've got some thickness there. That all looks good. That's better than we had. Okay. So I'm going to just call that a win. And so now we can go ahead and shift click the baseball and control // remember that's division. So path and division right here if you want to do it manually. But then what we're going to have is all of our bottom parts. Let's go ahead. We're in our selection tool. All of our bottom parts here, we're going to control K those. Okay. And then we're going to select everything. Shift select the bottom part and control K those. And then we'll just make that white. And so where here, that'll 3D print, right? We don't have that real fine line, but we still have our split baseball. Clear as mud? Do you want to go over that one more time? Because we can. But that's how we would split that in two. So that should make the process a lot better now. So now what we're going to do is we have to go back in and select all of our same fill color of our white and combine that all back together again. And then we have to define that, right? So it was white and it was 2 and it was 9. And then what else do we have to define? Let's see here. We've got to define this shape, which is going to be green baseball. And it is 2 and 9. And then this piece is white baseball. And it's 2 and 9. And then what are the rest of the bits? Those should all be our green bits. Indeed. So we can combine those and we'll call it green bits. And those can be 2 and 9. And I think I want all of that, all of our green to be the same color also. We don't want multiple colors of green. So we've got that and that. There we go. Now I think we have all of our green the same color. Let me look here. Just make sure we've got everything the way we want it. I think that's it. All right, so let's go ahead and save this. So we'll do File, Save As on the desktop. Baseball logo. For the model builder. And then we'll go ahead and make it build it. And with any kind of luck, we'll get what we expected to get. Baseball, there it is. Well, we see one problem right off, don't we? So let's go ahead and go back into Inkscape because we forgot the critical step, and that was to resize it to our finished hype chain size. I forgot that step. So we have our lock turned on. So we're going to change the height to 150. That's what I usually use for hype chains. And that will change the width proportionally. Now we will resave this. And now we'll see what the model builder gives us. We don't need that. There we go. Well,
You didn't put it back in the model builder after you fixed it.
uh,
You didn't rerun it. You saved it, but you didn't rerun it.
let's see here. Let me replace the design. Oh, is that what happened? I just opened up the
No, you
section.
didn't run it through the model.
I got you. Okay. My bad. Let's skip the step. All right, let's delete. And the model builder, if there is one already there, it'll just automatically override it. So that's just, we may change that behavior where it will warn you before you overwrite something, but for right now, that's how it was designed to work. Just overwrite. If there's one already there, the same name, it just overwrites it. Ta-da! So now this is a great example of we're mostly there. Okay, I'm fairly satisfied with most of this, but I don't like this. You see this here? I don't like it that tall. That's the one thing I don't like about it. But otherwise, you see how the green is sitting proud of the gold, and I wanted that. I wanted this to be kind of like, you know, the focus, the center. And remember, I wanted the gold to be a little bit above the green. Now, the green, I want to take a look at this because the green, let's take a look at that. That is 2, and we have that sitting directly on top of black, which is okay. I didn't really plan on that necessarily. So let's change that. Let's just go ahead and select that. Go to the move tool here, and let's just back that off to 8. And now we could see that the green, you know, just how that looks differently to this. Or we could even just set that to 8.5. You know, we can just play with that Z value a little bit until we get the relationship there that we wanted. But I did want the gold proud of the green, and it is. And the white is ever so slightly proud of the green, and that's because this we probably have at, yeah, this we have at 9, and the green now we have at 8.5. So that's why there's a slight difference there. But otherwise, I'm happy with everything else. The only thing I'm not happy with is this. So let's look at its thickness. It is 4. And let's look at its Z height, which is 11, which I don't think we can really actually have anyhow. And why is that? Well, let's look at this. So this is 4 millimeters thick, but our plate is only 8. So half of 4 is 2. 8 and 2 is 10. So if that is 11, then this is going to be floating above 1 millimeter. I don't know if we can actually see it anywhere. That's what's actually happening, but that is what's happening. That this is floating above this by 1 millimeter, and we can't have that. So that Z value is slightly different, slightly wrong. So we're going to go ahead and just change it. And so we could just change this. Let's change it to, first of all, let's just back it off to 10. It's still too much for me. So then we'll do 9. And now let's look at it. Okay, I can live with that. I did want it to be proud of everything. So I like that. The gold is back to being taller than the green, but not excessively so. So, but what we did when we did that, this is now embedded into the black. So, but let's figure out the math so you know how much it's embedded. So the ribbon is 4. This border piece is 4. Okay. The back plate's 8. So if we look at the Z of the ribbon here, let's look at it, see what it is. The Z is at 9. Okay. So the Z is at 9 here. So if this was 2 millimeters embedded, and this was 4, then it would be at 10. So, but it's not at 10. So it's only at 9. Let's see here. Right, that's at 9. So you could see this gold right there is embedded, but it's embedded only 1 millimeter into the back plate. So I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go ahead and add our Cuban chain here. We might have a bit of an issue here. So let's go ahead and do it. I'm kind of glad that it came up because we might want to know how to change it. So let's type in Cuban. And we'll hit OK. So there's our Cuban. Actually, we can fit it. I think it'll fit right there. It's really tight though. But I think it'll work like that. So we'll test it and see if it will. So in order to test print it, we're going to have to take our Cuban and shift click here, and then we're going to right click and merge, and then we're going to see if this will fit the way it is. So let's go ahead and test it out. Now, while we're waiting, is there any Bamboo expert out there? Because this is something that I haven't played with a lot, but I did play with it the other day because I had to. But to tell you what exact steps I took, I could not tell you. So we might have to hack our way through. But the challenge is that damn prime tower. Now, you could, in theory, not have a prime tower at all, right? But the question I was asking myself the other day when I was running into this problem, and I think I was working on a hype chain too, is how do we change the prime tower, the size of the prime tower? So the reason it is the size it is because Bamboo has calculated we need that much purge volume for what it is we're printing. But so we can change the shape of that prime tower. Ooh, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. Actually, that's probably not a huge deal. What it's probably telling us is that my guess is that sometimes when we get the floating cantilever, it tells us that we have floating shapes. Okay. In our case, I don't think that's the case. We will go back through the design and make sure that's the case. But it's probably telling us that our hype chain actually needs supports. This hype chain is really not supposed to need supports. But the last time I used it, it told me the same thing. So
by moving the prime tower, sometimes that gets rid of that. The prime tower might be in a bad spot. See where it's touching? Almost. Oh, maybe not. Sometimes if you move it, I usually put it in the corner.
So yeah, but you could see up here on this particular situation, it won't fit. And so somebody said something about taking a small object and purge into that. And yes, you can do that too. Let's go back here.
You can get rid of the brims on the prime tower. If you go into where the prime tower selections are,
Yes.
you get rid of those brims and it'll make it narrower.
Yes.
You want to make it smaller. That's one way to make it smaller.
So my concept is, and like I said, I'll hack my way through it because I think it's worth noting. You could see here it says that the prime tower is too close, and it may you see it and collisions may be caused, but you can also see that it doesn't actually collide. Like it's tight, right? But the other day when I'm sure it was a hype chain I was working on, but the other day, what the idea is so we need this much purge volume, but why can't this purge tower be long and skinny to give us the same volume that we need, but we've got a long skinny space over here? That was my question. Like, is that possible? Or we have a big area down here. So let's go back over to, and let's just see what we're talking about here. So to define the prime tower values, I have to do that in the global settings. And then we come to others, and there's our prime tower. So you can see we can enable, and then you can see here it says max width. The width of the prime tower, that's the brim that we were talking about that we could remove.
You only need a brim if it's tall, so it doesn't tip over.
It's
not a tall one, so you can get rid of. You can make that 0.
Right, and also we're using the. So Shalonda says, I have taken my Y down, and what's interesting about this is. This is grayed out at this point, and I forgot exactly what I had to do. I did something. I don't know if it was farther down the line where it did allow me to change this, but I forgot exactly what it was. But yes, so we can get rid of our brim, and now you could see
Try the rib width might make it allow you to do the width. See where it says rib width down below? I think that affects the 35, I think, if I remember. I could be wrong.
Okay, let's try it. Well, it definitely makes it smaller, didn't it? So yeah, so if we just keep going, see, now that it's definitely smaller. Doesn't
activate internal ribs or one of those selection. I think maybe if you activate internal ribs.
Is that further down the line?
No, right down, third one down. Checkbox, that's not checked. What does that do?
This one?
No, that didn't do it. I forgot. You're right. I forgot how to do it too.
Um,
Maybe rib wall. I think you have to unselect rib wall. Third one down, fourth one down, under 150. Yeah, see what happened. Yep, there you go. I made it smaller.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yep, that did it.
So, but and then, yes, so it is smaller now, right? So that's good. So I didn't mean to make it that small though, but you see how when I did change the size to 8 millimeters, you see how tall it got all by itself. So the purge volume. So when I change this back to 15, watch it gets smaller, right? So we have the same amount of purge volume, but it's just in a different shape. And so now we can, when you have a tight work area here, now you can for sure fit it, in this particular instance. And so you don't have to worry about that so much. So now I do want to go back through and just double check the logic on the medallion and just make sure, because it's saying that we have floating cantilevers, but I think that's related to our Cuban chain. So let's just go through and verify this. So our back plate should be at 4 because it's 8 millimeters thick. So that's sitting on the build plate. The green is, we may have discovered a problem. Nope, the green is 2. So half of 2 is 1. So if anything, the green should be at 9, but it's only at 8.5. So it's definitely not floating. The white, it is 2. And so it's the Z height of the white is 9, which half of 2 is 1 plus the 8 mil plate. So the white is not embedded. It's just sitting directly on top. So we don't have no issues there. The gold, this piece of gold here is 3. Half of 3 is 1.5, and the Z height is 9.5 on top of 8. So that's perfect. It's not embedded, but it's sitting directly on top. The back gold here is 3. Half of 3 is 1.5. So if anything, that should be sitting at 9.5, and it's only sitting at 9. So we're good there. The gold here is 4. Half of 4 is 2. 8 and 2 is 10, but the Z height here is only 9. So that's fine. And then the Freen logo, it is 4. And I think it's floating. It is floating. Okay, so half of 4 is 2. Plus 8 is 10, but it's floating at 11. See, that's why we go back through and double check those things. So what do we got to do? Well, we got to at least make this 5, right? Half of 5 is 2.5. So if I do want this protruding like it is, so I did want that look. So let's put that at 10.5, and now we found our culprit. So I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But let's go. Our stars. Those are 3. So what should they be sitting at? At least 9.5, and they are sitting at 9. So we're good there. Our little green bits, they're sitting at 9, and they're only 2. So those green bits are sitting directly on top of the build plate, so they're not embedded. But that's okay, right? Because they're at 9. Yep, so that works. And then our green baseball 2 and 9. Yes, that works. The white baseball 2 and 9. Yes, and then the Cuban chain. Okay, so I think we found our culprit. So it's a good thing we went back and double checked it and didn't just assume, because that would have created us a mess. So let's go ahead and reslice it one more time. We've got our new prime tower configurator. Now we know what that is. I've come across that a lot of times and got and struggled to find any documentation about changing the width. Like if you go on YouTube right now, there's not much you can't figure out and find a video on. But if you type in YouTube right now, prime tower width in Bamboo Studio, I couldn't find nothing. I found lots of stuff about the prime tower, but nothing about how to change the width of the prime tower. Or I changed the size of the prime tower. I searched all kinds of different terms because I was really struggling to fit the prime tower, because the medallion had to be a specific size. They were looking for it to be a specific size, but as you can see, that's why I make it 150. A lot of people say, well, why do you use 150 all the time? Well, with this particular Cuban chain, there's not much room for any bigger medallion than that and the prime tower. So that's why I typically will use 150. Oh my goodness, we've been going 2.5 hours. Here I thought I was doing good on time tonight. I've been talking too much. I thought we didn't go over 2 hours. I thought I was doing good. So there you go, 10 hours, 9 minutes. We get no warnings about floating cantilevers. And then we got our prime tower fit on there just fine. So there we go. We all learned something. Now we know how to change the prime tower. Do we? We got to go back to global. And what did we have to change? Rib wall. We had to turn off rib wall. And then that allowed us to change the width. Yep. So now look at it went back to what we had before. So there you go. That's the magic trick. All right. So let's go ahead and save this. So he said, okay, so this is a good question. Cody was asking about, well, first of all, Cody, unless you're using this right here, don't cry about stuff coming off your bill plate, because that is a solution, a very cheap one, and you'll forever love me for it. So if you're not using those cool plates, there's a couple of different manufacturers now, but to me, I don't understand why anyone would use anything different, because I don't ever have adhesion problems with that plate. But boy, did I have adhesion problems with my PEI texture plate that come with the printer. I constantly had problems, especially the real reason I like those cool plates, and I don't know what everyone else's experience is. I don't do a lot of printing, but the real reason I do like those cool plates is you can print on that thing 100 times and never wash it and never have an issue with adhesion. But the PEI plate, I was doing, maybe 10 prints, having to wash it, and then even after I washed it, it still wouldn't stick. And then I was using glue sticks and hairspray and all these different things that people recommended on the Facebook groups, just to get something to stick. It was driving me crazy. So I don't know, like if anyone has any comments about that, but the cool plate really, I think, will change your life as far as adhesion issues in general. But and like I said, I'm not a printer, so I'm probably not really the person to ask. But there is one thing you could do, I think, in general, right? As far as adhesion issues go, we can the line width on our initial layer, we could make thicker. It depends on the file settings, but some file settings will have that initial layer thinner. So you definitely want to look at that. So on the quality tab here, you'll see that, let's see here. Yeah, initial layer height, right? Or initial layer thickness right here, the line width. So make sure they didn't change that on you. This is the default right here. So we could possibly make that thicker. But isn't there a way to, is it on the speed tab here, that initial layer, right? Like, did anybody want to comment on that with Cody having a problem with the initial layer sticking? Is that not how to potentially solve some of that, is to lower your speed on the first layer?
And I think a higher temperature, nozzle temp on your first layer also.
Oh.
So that just a little bit, like I had that problem and I raised it, I think like 5 degrees, and it worked great.
Okay.
Lower speed, a little bit hotter on the first layer.
I got you. Okay. Perfect. So that should help you, Cody. Somebody asked, what about the fan speed, Zach? You got a comment on that?
Yeah, I think fan speed you bring down also. I have the deflector, so that kind of helps. But yes, fan on PLA, they say you don't even need the fan half the time. So if you're printing PLA, you can bring that down. I only adjusted it on one profile because I was having problems, and it worked great. I think, like I said, 5 or 10 degrees, and I think I brought the fan speed down to like 50 or something.
And so the logic on the fan speed, right, just so I understand it correctly, the logic about changing the fan speed is that you're lowering the fan speed, right? You're not raising it, and by lowering it, you're cooling. The PLA is cooling slower, which gives it more time to stick. Is that the logic?
Yeah, more time to stick and more time to stick to the next layer that
Right.
comes after it. So it's still a little, yeah, that'll give you a better adhesion from what I understand. Yeah, I've only done it once and it worked. And I want to go through all my profiles and start raising the temp a little bit and the fan speed for PLA because it worked great. And I had I was printing the, what was it? Some of the koozie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having ridiculous amount of problems. And I thought it was my filament, and it might have been my filament needed to be dry again, but it wouldn't stick. And I realized once I did all that, it was beautiful. So
I got you.
definitely helps. It's kind of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And I will just say, speaking from history, when I'm using, I really haven't had much problem since I switched to my cool plate. But before I switched to my cool plate, I had all kinds of issues with my PLA sticking to my PEI plate. And yes, somebody recommended changing that default temperature, increasing it by 10 degrees. And oh boy, what a difference that really did make on the PEI plate. Just raising the temperature on the PLA to make it stick really made a difference. But in the end, I was like, no, I'm just going to go with the cool plate from here on out. So
I'll give you another little trick. I actually have the Panda, like you do, the cryo plates. I have both of them. And in the settings, at least I have the P2S, I leave it on the standard. I turn off the auto detection for PLA. I leave that on the standard PEI while using the cool plate, and it works phenomenal. I only use my cool plate settings for PETG because it needs to be cooler or needs to be cooler, and I want to use less heat. That's the whole idea behind the cryo plates are to use less heat so you save on electricity and power and all that stuff. But I don't bother with that. I just leave it on the PI plate, but I have the cool plate down for PLA, and that sticks great.
I got you. Okay, so
because if you put it on the cool plate settings, it's going to it's going to lower the temperature
on the plate
on the nozzle. Also, it's going to print right on the plate. Sorry, it's going to bring the temperature down, and you want the temperature higher. So I use the cool plate at the normal PEI settings.
Okay, that's it. I never tried that, but
except for PETG.
I do know that the cool plate. So can you use the cool plate with PETG?
Yes, that's what it's more for. So you can save money because PETG needs everything to be higher temps, which uses more electricity and more power. The idea behind the cryoplate is you get to bring all that temperature down because it'll still stick. Not the nozzle. The nozzle temperature, all that stays the same because it needs to melt. But the actual sticking temperature can be lower because of the properties of the cryoplate.
Oh, okay. So anyhow, guys, somebody was asking about the cool plates that we're talking about.
They're very cheap, by the way.
Yeah. You could see them here
all the time for $19, $16.
Yeah, my local. I bought mine at my local Micro Center, and they were 18 there.
Yeah, and I use that one. I don't use the other one, the smooth one. Really, I use the textured one, this is the best one.
Yeah. So they have two. They have well, they may have more actually, but they have the Frostbite, which is for PLA and PETG, and then they also have the Glacier, which is really only for PETG. It's not really meant for PLA. So.
Right. And also if you have a P2S, I don't know about the others. I think the P21 and the A1 might. The P2S will not auto detect this, so you have to turn off auto detection.
Okay.
And select what plate. And the P2S shipped, and they didn't correct it yet, has cool plate and super cool plate tack listed. But if you go into the settings, there's only cool plate listed or super tack. One of them is not listed anymore because they don't use it. So it's kind of confusing. So set it up. I think it's under cool plate or actually, I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, see how mine is? It's showing at the top, it's cool plate, and then at the bottom, the cool plate super tack.
Right. In the filament settings, if you go to try and change your filament settings to use the plate, mine only comes up with hold on one second, sorry. So mine says cool plate super tack, cool plate, engineer plate. It's got all of them listed, but in the drop down menu where you are right now on the top only lists cool plate. So for some reason that's they got rid of the setting in the P2S for super tack. You can't select it. It's weird. So just don't get confused by that. I think also, just so while we're doing bamboo stuff, if anybody, I'm sure everybody was affected today by the cloud being down. I don't know if anybody had those issues.
Oh my goodness, I heard about that. Like
So-
all over the groups.
Right.
Oh my
So
God, land.
don't forget about land mode. Although I had problems connecting to land mode, believe it or not. So
Oh, okay.
that was another issue. But land mode, when that happens, you either got to do land mode or put the model directly onto your USB stick. You can still print. Everybody's like, I can't print. I can't. You can print.
Were we hacked by the Iranians or what was it?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably no. It's who owns the company? It's the Chinese themselves. But yeah, you don't forget. You can always print. You can just transfer your print to your USB stick by taking it out and putting it in your computer, and you can use land mode. USB stick's a lot easier. Land mode was a little bit of a challenge, but I think I was doing something wrong. This is what makes me want to change over to BamBuddy, which is a whole nother program.
Yeah, I heard everybody up in arms when they were on the groups.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, I guess we learned about land mode today."
Yep. That's it. Land mode is your friend.
Yeah. Blank Buddy.
BamBuddy. But you have to have like a server. You have to self-host it and all.
Yeah. No, I don't know why I said Blank Buddy, but anyhow, somebody was asking about what Cuban I was using. This is it. This is the OG, I guess you could say, Blank Cuban. So they actually have better ones now. I say better. They're not necessarily better, but different.
We have to design that clamp. Remember, we forgot all about it, so you don't have to print the chain with the saving those changes.
actually, that's what I was just going to talk about is that they actually have different Cubans now. I don't know exactly what it's called, but
yeah, they have the ones with the slip-ons. That's not that doesn't really work as well because you have to have a open Cuban. The one we're printing doesn't open. It's not an open Cuban. It's completely solid.
Yes,
clasp. So the other ones you have to slip them on. You have to print the Cuban that has the connector up there. It's totally different.
Yeah. So this is an example of a Cuban that does split, but I just saw one the other day when I was searching, where it was kind of like this, where it had the Cuban and it had this little medallion, this little piece that basically looped over it, so that you could attach different hype chains to it.
Yeah, because I printed the multicolor. I printed the split hype chain, which looks awesome, where it's half one color and half the other, but not each link from top to bottom. It's half. So I did the lower half one color, the second half. I colored it by layer, and it looks awesome. But it took like 12 hours. If I could print the chain by itself, it would have taken no time.
Yeah, so there is, like I said, I don't remember exactly what I typed in and named it, but there was one where this piece you could slide on and off and connect different hype chains to it, but I don't remember exactly. But there is one on here.
Like I said, if it slides on and off, you have to print the chain that has the clasp.
Yeah,
it will go on the other chain.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely have to print the one that you can snap apart. So yeah, so it does exist somewhere in the world. But anyhow, that is the hype chain I used tonight. It's this one right here. So if you just type in blank Cuban, that's the one that pops up all the time. All right. I'm just going through our notes here. Any other questions? I am like, if you want to stick around, I know we've been at it for a while, but I did kind of tease a little bit about showing you some embroidery. And the only reason I thought to do it was because this logo that we worked on would be really simple embroidery project. So if you just wanted to see how you would turn that into an embroidery file with Inkscape, I think we could do that relatively quickly. And, you know, something to keep in mind is even if you want to do something for yourself, you know, if you can create the embroidery file and give it to your local, you know, person who does embroidery, you know, it's so easy to connect with people nowadays. And so you don't necessarily have to go to your local embroidery shop. You can find some grandma at home that has the embroidery machine, or maybe there's, you know, stay-at-home mom has got a small at-home business. So you could go on Facebook and say, hey, I've got the logo. I just need somebody to put it on some polos or put it on some hats, and you could probably get it done, you know, pretty inexpensively. So if you want to hang out for that, we're going to do it. And if you don't, well, then we'll see you on Thursday. If you do have some projects for Thursday you want to see demonstrated, you know, feel free to email them to us and tell us the details. And you know, if there's sample artwork that you got, let me know. And I'm going to hopefully reveal some of the more automation tools that I'm creating for Inkscape and Blender on Thursday. So we're going to go over some of that. And who knows what else. So anyhow, we're going to show you how to create an embroidery file real quick. And the thing I love about it is that it's fairly easy. There's a lot of ways we could do it, but I'm going to show you what I believe is quote unquote the easy way. And we'll just see how it turns out here. There is a lot to learn, like about embroidery in general. So I have lots of videos on Inkstitch. The Inkstitch plugin for Inkscape is what turns our artwork into an embroidery file. It's free, doesn't cost anything. So just type in inkstitch.org and you can download it, install it, and play around with it if you want. So this is the logo that we're going to do. This is, let's see here, it's currently 75, which is a 3-inch logo. So I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make it about, let's do 90. 90 will still fit in a 4-inch hoop. Now, 90 will not work for a hat, okay? Because most of your hat frames for an embroidery machine are less than 3 inches. So, and most of them are even smaller than that. You know, like I think on my machine, I have a 6-needle Brother PR600. And I think I can only go like 2.8 inches is the maximum height. I can go wide. I just, there's a limitation on how tall you have available to even stitch on a hat, you know. So I think on my hat frame is only 2.8 inches. So keep that in mind if you're trying to make an embroidery design for hats. So we're going to do a left chest logo in this example. So we have our artwork here, and we're going to kind of use the same methodology that we do when we're doing for 3D printing. Let's turn off everything but what we're working on. So, and I think that's going to be the good thing to do here. So we're gonna start with our border. So this is going to be our border that we're going to start with here. And what I want to do is I want to separate these little pieces from this outer border. And I feel like the easiest way to do that is turn on my snapping, and we're going to go to my B, hit the B key, which is my pen tool, and we're just going to click, click, click and click and right click. And let's get rid of the fill, but shift click, and we want to see that. See, so you see what I did there? I just drew this line here, okay? So pretty straightforward. Now I have this selected. You see those nodes are active? So when I continue this, I'm gonna hit my shift key for my next section and just go back to my pen tool. So B key on my keyboard, shift, and then we're gonna add 2. So by holding shift, you're adding to what you've already done. So we're gonna click here and here and here and here. Okay, and then so now you see those 2 are still one path. So shift click again, and you don't have to do that. It's just I've kind of gotten in the habit of doing it. Shift click again. So that's how I recommend you do it. Okay, so now we have this. Now the reason I use the shift option is because if I didn't, I would then have to go back and select all those anyhow and combine them into one, because we can only have one cutter and we need to perform a cut operation here. So I have these pieces and I'm going to shift click here and we're going to do control /, which is the same as if I went to path and division. Okay. Now we have this kind of unexpected result, but that is to be expected. So no need to panic. We're going to go to Alt Q and we're going to take the interior path and the outside path and just recombine them. Control K. And that's it. Okay, so now we have this border here, and then we have these inner pieces. Okay. Now really what we need to do is we need to separate this outside border from the inside border. So let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to go back to path and break apart. We're going to kind of get this result again. But we're just going to take the inside path, shift click the outside path, control K, and then we're going to do the same thing here. Inside path, outside path. And no, you don't have to do the inside path before the outside path. But there you go. So now this piece, right, and this piece, and then all of these pieces are all individual pieces. Okay. So for now, let's just turn all that off. I feel like that's going to be the simpler thing to do. Then we have this piece. So let's just start with this piece. Let's turn that into embroidery. So how do we do that? Well, it's first of all, it has a fill. Okay. So we want to go up here to extensions and ink stitch and come down to params. Params is short for parameters. And so that's where we can define all of what we want to do. And so when you think about some of the automation in Inkscape of what we can do in relation to 3D printing, we could have an interface like this where we could have all kinds of parameters and look at all these different settings and stuff as it relates to embroidery that we can do. So we could have a tool similar to this for the purposes of creating 3D printed artwork for 3D printing. So later, that's what I'm building towards, is some type of interface like this that works right inside Inkscape. But in this case, let's back up here and just show you what we got going on. So these are our embroidery stitches. So it's just showing you that. They're fill stitches, and you can see those fill stitches there are going perfectly horizontal. Okay, now as a general rule, that's kind of against embroidery standards. So I'm just going to come up here, and you see where it says angle of the line of stitches, and we'll just give it 45 in this example. And then it will go ahead and recalculate those stitches, and now you could see the fill stitches go at a 45-degree angle. And the big thing about embroidery is underlay. So we can have underlay if we want to. So there's lots of different settings. This will probably get the job done. But there's a bunch of other options that I won't go over. But I'm just going to give you the quick and dirty version. So nothing visually happened in our workspace, but in the background, what happened is the plugin created an XML file that that attach some properties to this particular piece of our design. So you probably didn't need to know that, but but at any rate, that's what happened. So now we have our small text and our big text. Maybe let's go ahead and deal with our small text here. Now, the way this is going to work, and I'm going to kind of give you more of an extreme example here, but I'll give you an embroidery crash course. But what we want to do is, this is, first of all, this is all going to be done in satin stitches, which is kind of important. And we're going to have our satin stitches go here. Then so they're going to go like this way. And then when we get to here, they're going to go this way, up and down, up and down. But then the column here, they're going to go side to side. Okay, and then they're going to go back up and down. And then they're going to kind of come at an angle and then all the way back up here. And then here, we're going to have two satin columns. We're going to have one that goes this way, but then we're going to have one that goes this way. Okay, and so the easiest, what I think is the easiest way for a newcomer to start is just go ahead and use that break apart option that we did previously. So I'm going to just show you this. So we click here, and right here in the corner, come over here to this corner and down. That's our first piece, okay? And then we're going to hold our shift key down, and we're going to cut the bottom. Do the exact same thing. Okay, and we have only one path here. And where else do we need to cut? Well, we need to cut right here. So we're going to click here, and we're going to come in here. Now we do have snapping turned on. Let's maybe turn it off for a moment. We'll click here, and come down here. Okay, so now we have that one. Okay, now we still only have one path. So if I toggle all that on, you see how those are all combined? They're combined because I'm using my shift key. Okay, that's why they're combined. And then one more time, we're going to just do a vertical cut. So we're going to hit shift, and we're going to come straight down. We can hold our control key, and that will come straight down. Okay, and hit enter. So now we have this piece, and we're going to go ahead and shift click our E, and we're going to go ahead and do control /. Okay, so now we have this piece, that piece, this piece, and this piece. Okay, pretty cool, huh? So now, and I may decide to make some extra automation tools, even for embroidery. But in order to convert these into stitches, what we have to do is we have to add stitch angles. And I'm going to go into outline mode to do this because I feel like it'll be easier for you to see. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab our pen tool, and we're going to just start. So we're just going to go right there. See how I cap that off? And I'm going to hold my shift key and cap it off. And we're going to hold our shift key and cap it off. And we're going to hold our shift key and cap it off. Okay? And then on this object, we're going to go vertical. So shift key, one here, and shift key, one here. By adding those two lines, we're telling the software which direction we want the stitches to go. So think of these lines that we're adding as stitch angles. And once you actually see this in action, it'll click, I think, pretty quick for you. So let's go ahead and do that again here. We want to tell it this column needs to go this way. And I'm holding my shift key, and then shift key down here. And again, you don't have to hold your shift key. I'm just doing it to save us one step later on. Okay. So I added this one at the corner because I'm telling it how I want those stitches to specifically go. And then we'll do the same thing here. Then we got this over here. And again, I'm holding my shift key. And that's it. So it's pretty, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's time consuming, kind of, because we got to add all those lines, and we have to do it, to all of those pieces. But that's essentially what we're doing to each one of those pieces. So to convert this into embroidery, we're just going to select all of that. And we would normally go through and do the whole design, right? We would add these little stitch lines on everything. And then we would do the conversion all at once. We wouldn't do it letter by letter. But what I'm going to do here for this example for tonight, I'm just going to convert these letters, and then you'll have an idea. You know, it's the same process, essentially. Okay, so let's go ahead and select that and convert these. So the way we convert them is go to extensions and come to ink stitch, and we come down here to tool satin, and there's a really nifty tool. Now this didn't always exist, but now that it's here, it's an amazing tool, because we can click on fill the satin here and just go ahead and hit apply. We don't have to worry about those settings right now. And you'll see that it just does this. It looks kind of weird, but if we just select those and go back into params, so ink stitch params, now you'll see that all of those have been converted into embroidery stitches. So there you go. Now here, we don't really like what's happened here. And you can see here, now this is very tiny. First of all, this is very microscopic. And microscopic and embroidery doesn't really go very well together. Okay, so that's a problem here. And you can also see that there's a jump stitch from this piece to this piece. You see that jump stitch there? So we could probably clean that up too. But I want to see what's happening here. So let's go ahead and hit apply and quit. And a lot of times that we can see that what's happening in our model, or in our drawing, I should say. So let's look and see what's happened here. So first of all, part of what's happened is I'm just going to, you see that space that was created? I'm just going to have these parts overlap. So that's kind of my first step. And then I also see, and actually we don't even need those. So let's go ahead and delete those. In ink stitch, these are called rails. So this is a rail and this is a rail. And we're just going to move this over. And really, we don't need that stitch angle at all. And the reason we don't need that stitch angle is because we have our two rails. Okay. So I know that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to you, but that's why we don't need our stitch angle line. And you see here, we don't have our stitch angle line here, but we do have one here. And that's okay, but we don't really technically need this one, because the rails themselves are enough to define, in this instance, the rails are enough to define where we want the needle to go. Now, let's go ahead and finish the rest of this. So you see here, there's a gap, right, between one column to the next. So let's go ahead and fix that. So we're just going to delete those two. And again, these are rails. So the needle is going to jump from one line to the next, back and forth in a zigzag pattern, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then so up here, same thing. We'll just go ahead and overlap this. If we were digitizing this manually, then those satin columns would not meet perfectly. Now, these stitch angles here, we're just going to leave. And these stitch angles here, we're just going to leave. Now, let's see. One other thing that we should do is we should specify our stitch. We should specify our stitch sequence. So in this case, we're going to start here, shift click our next piece, shift click our next piece, shift click our next piece, and then we're going to end down here. Okay. So then we can come up here to extensions and choose ink stitch, and we're going to choose edit. And you see this option here. It says restack objects in the order of selection. And again, we wouldn't normally do this at this stage. We would do it at the end when we're done converting everything to embroidery stitches. But I just wanted to show you the general process. And then when we do the other letters, you're going to be, okay, that makes sense. That's a pretty straightforward process. So now we should more or less get our expected results. So we didn't really change anything per se. So we changed some nodes, but we didn't really change anything that would cause our parameters that we've already done to change. So let's just show you and see if we go back into params, we'll see if any of those changes we did helped our situation. And yes, so we have, it still looks a little messy, but that's also probably because it's so tiny. So we can change our density a little bit. So instead of 0.4, we could do 0.2. And so now you could see how much denser those stitches are. Now, do you see this where these stitches are kind of like going at this weird angle? Well, if you go back to, so I do like that better. It's a thicker density. You could see that a little bit better. So why is that happening? Well, right here, and this is really getting in the weeds about how InkStitch thinks, but generally, the stitch angles, if we do not have a stitch angle line, then Inkscape will use based on nodes. So based on these nodes, we'll determine stitch angles. So in this case, we just have 2 lines, so we don't need all those extra nodes. It's just 2 straight lines, right? So now if we go back and look at the same artwork, you'll see that we'll get the expected results. It'll just be a nice horizontal stitch line. See? So, yeah. So that's what we get. And then we could go so on and so forth and whatnot, right? So let's go back in here. So if we're going to kind of repeat the steps for our S, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to grab our pen tool and we're going to whack off the end of our S, right click, shift click, draw this one. Okay, and then we have to define our stitch angles where we want this to go. So I might just add one here and here and here. And once you do this enough, you'll kind of know like how many stitch angles you need. And then yes, we'll go ahead and cap this off too, because those will tell InkStitch where we want, what direction we want our satin stitches to go. That's why we want those. So we want those to go horizontally. When we're adding these stitch angles, we want to make sure that we're only covering our path. Like we don't want to extend over this one, because then InkStitch could kind of go batty, because it won't really know our intent that way. But let's go ahead and we're going to take these lines that we just created. And I forgot, we actually, let's see here. Let me think about this before I go. I forgot we skipped a step. My bad. We need to cut the parts first. So we have to, this one and this one. And we're going to select both of them. I didn't hold my shift key down, so I have to hit Control K to combine them. But now we can split them. Control / and so now we have these split. So now, yes, now we can go back in and define our stitch angles. So we'll select that one, and we'll just hold our shift key down as we go and do these. We'll just put our stitch angles back in. You can't add too many, so don't, feel free to add whatever you want. But also, you don't want to go crazy. If you don't need them, why have them? All right, so that's our S. And so let's go ahead and see what that does. So back to InkStitch and params. And what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm not going to show you every single step here, but I will. Now this is an unexpected result I'll have to, you'll see here. I don't know what's happening here. So we must have did something wrong. Otherwise, it wouldn't give us this warning. So let's go back and look at our artwork and see, did we do something wrong here? So let's look at this. I don't think we did, though. I don't think we did. We have, let's see here. Just seeing here, see how that cups and cups, so that's good. That's good. Good, 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 good. So yes, everything looks right. Well, let's try it again. Don't know what that could be. Nope, it's not giving us. So what we'll do is we'll back out here and let's just take, we're going to take all of our lines, but then we're just going to take one piece of our S and see if it will do that. Kind of narrow down what the problem might be. I don't know if it's going to accept this. It's not. So I think I know what I did and I shouldn't have. So let's go ahead and break these apart. And I'm fairly certain I know what I did. Possibly. So I have these stitch angles. They were all one piece. And I'm wondering if I should have just had the stitch angles for just that piece. And then we're going to take the stitch angles. I'm just shift clicking here. I don't know. I don't use this tool a whole lot anymore. So maybe I goofed. So now we have just the stitch angles for the other part of our S. And then we're going to have the stitch angles for that piece of the S. So now it will know probably what to do here. So let's go back in and now we know. If this works, then we know what the proper process is. Devil's in the details. No. I must be going wacko because I remember what I did now. I don't think I changed the, I don't think I used the fill stitch. Tool satin, fill to satin, my bad. So no, we can, I'm pretty sure the stitch angles can be all grouped like we had them, but we just didn't use the fill to satin. And so that's why it was going wacko. So now if I select those and look at them in params, now it should look more or less like I expected. See there? Now, remember we increased our zigzag spacing here to give it a little bit more dense. So yes, so once we do our stitch angles, then we have to go back in and do the fill to satin, okay? So I want to move on to another part. I think you got the idea of how to do our lettering here. So let's see what else we got. That's our big lettering. That's our outside lettering. And there are some pre-configured fonts in Inkstitch. So if we go up here to Inkstitch and choose lettering, it will show us some pre-digitized fonts. So we would not, so where it says Urban Auto, we wouldn't have to go through and what's really cool about the lettering tool, let me just show you this real quick. Let's go to grab our measure tool. So I want to measure how tall this T is. And you can see it's roughly 9 millimeters. So when we do go into extensions and Inkstitch here and choose lettering, we can come in here and ask it to show us only fonts that will work with 9 millimeter. And so it only shows the fonts that will work if we set it to 9 millimeters. So I think that's a pretty, there's more fonts. So if I don't have anything in that field at all, then, and click, then you see we got all kinds of fonts. But if I only want to look at fonts that will work with a 9mm height, then it will only show me those fonts that will work with 9mm. So I just think that's cool. And yes, you can do lettering on a path and all that stuff. So you could definitely do that too. So I do want to, let's see, let's turn that off. And we'll I just wanted to show you how to do the border here is what I wanted to do. So we'll turn that off and we'll turn this off. That goes off. Okay, so we need that piece, this piece, and this piece. Okay. Excellent. So there's a couple of different ways to convert to satin. So this border I want to be all satin stitches, and this one I want to be all satin stitches. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and convert this to satin stitches by just adding some lines here. So we're going to shift click to add a border. Let's see, what do we got going on here? So we're going to go back to B here. Okay, I see what I did. My bad. I used shift and I shouldn't have. So when we're adding stitch angles, we just want to add them. We don't want to use the shift. Now we can use shift. And when we're dealing with a circle, we really only need to do it at every quadrant. So we just need the 4. So there's our stitch angles. And you see this one's a little bit at an angle. We don't really want that because we want perfectly horizontal stitches at that point. So we have those 4 lines, shift click, and we'll go to extensions. And then we'll come down here to ink stitch and tool satin, fill to satin, and hit apply. Okay, and those will be changed now to satin, and we'll do the exact same thing for this piece. So we'll hit B to add in some stitch angles here, shift click, add one at this quadrant, and I'm just right clicking once I add it. Okay, that's taken care of, and then shift click here. Same thing, extensions, I have a keyboard shortcut for this, but tool satin, you see it right there. Control Alt S will take us right to the satin, but we'll hit apply. And now that's been converted to satin stitches. So now we only have this. Now we could do this the exact same way we've been doing it, but I just wanted to show you an alternate way here. So what we can do is we could just double click on one of these, and we're going to double click right here and add a node right at the tip. And we're going to come up here, and this one right here, there's a keyboard shortcut, but it's this icon is break at nodes, which is right there. Okay, so we can come over here and do the same thing on this end. We can just, it's a little bit more difficult because this is turned on, so let's just turn that off. So we're looking at just this piece, but we can double click right here and we can do the same thing. And the keyboard shortcut is Shift B. Okay, and what that does is it breaks at nodes. So you see how it's broken? And now we can define this as satin stitches. Let me just show you. I'll go ahead and do the rest of them. So we're going to add a node, Shift B. And we'll come down here, add a node, Shift B. Come back up here on this one. We'll just double click, add a node. I don't know if it's any quicker necessarily than adding stitch angles, but it's just another option, another method. When you really get into digitizing, there's all kinds of tricks in ink stitch, but Shift B and then one more. And essentially what we've done is we've created the border for our satin columns. So we're just going to go ahead and select all those pieces. And when we come in here to ink stitch params, initially nothing is going to happen. Well, something is going to happen, but it's going to give us unexpected results. That's what it's going to give us. Okay, when we're starting out here. And what we wanted, let's see, what is happening here? Oh, yes. We were close. We want to do path and break apart. Let's see here. Let's just try one. I'm pretty sure these have to be combined, though. Let's go back in and to see if that will convert it. We shouldn't have to break those apart. Nope. Oh, my bad. Okay, let's back up a second. I forgot my own rule. So no, we do. When we're doing satin, I forgot. You see here, we can't have fill because that's the trigger for ink stitch. So that's why it was only giving us fill options. So if we have no fill, but when you shift click, so now we only have a stroke. Shift clicking any one of these colors, doesn't matter what color it is, that will give us an outline. So now when we go to extensions and we hit params, it's not going to know if we want satin stitches or running stitches. So it's going to assume running stitches to begin with. I wish it wouldn't, because while we do use running stitches a lot in embroidery, we use satin stitches even more. So I wish the default was satin, but it's not. So every time we want to convert it to satin, we got to actually click satin and click on that. So we got 2 clicks to convert those to satin. Okay. Now only one column, only one of those columns turned out the way we wanted to. This one did. These you could clearly see are not the way we want. And the reason they're not the way we want is because of those pesky nodes. So we don't have anything to define our stitch angles. Okay, so if we don't have stitch angles, then it's going to automatically assume based on nodes. And so this path, the top half, has an extra node that the bottom half doesn't have. So if I delete that node, now this half has the exact same. Okay, and then same thing here. Let's look at this one. This has an extra node. That's it. That's why it's acting the way it's acting. And then this one here also has an extra node. Okay. Now this one here, if we study the nodes, it doesn't have an extra node. And so that's why that one stitched the way we expected it to. So now if we go back in and look, you'll see that those will be generated properly. So the devil's really in the details. Just like with 3D printing, it's no different. Devil's in the details. But if we understand what the details that are being looked for, then we can, pretty easily create our artwork properly. So go ahead and add that, and we'll just take a look at this now. So it's pretty cool that this software exists. It's free. Embroidery software is expensive. But if we're just doing, I have the full Wilcom suite. Back in the day, I used to do a lot of screen printing and embroidery video tutorials. And so I have the full Wilcom embroidery suite. It was like $5,000. So it's really expensive software, but for what it is, for free, I ain't hating on this software. It gives us a pretty nice result. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to digitize the whole design and then put it as part of the class files. So you can, if you have an embroidery machine at home, you can try it out. So usually I do DST format is kind of like a generic file format, and then PES for my brother machine, and then JEF for Janome machines. So I will have one of each, but if you want to stitch it and one of those won't work for you, then just let me know and I can get you whatever file format you need. Because in, let's go ahead and choose, we'll choose apply and quit here. But if you come in here and hit file and save as, and you look here, we have all these different embroidery formats. So there's a bunch of them. So for Tajima machines and Brother machines and Janome machines, Melco machines, FAF machines, all kinds of different brands. But most machines will open the DST file format. So that's kind of the generic standard. So any questions, guys, before I let you go? Any comments on what you want to see in next class? Is there something out there that you've been wanting to see? Alicia, you got questions, comments?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, when will you be putting up the video for the pay sign?
Tonight, because
Okay.
I have the video. Of course, I have the files already done. So yes, I will post that tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? There's the page stand chat. I want to look at that because she was saying if we click here, it says check out this chat. So if we click down here, does it take us to the chat? It doesn't. That's weird. So there you go. So if you click down here where it says check out this chat, it does not actually take you to the chat. It just takes you to the website. And then if you click here on this image, it just takes you to the website. But if you click on this link up top here, then it takes you to the chat. Or is it going to make a liar out of me? Nope, there it is. So there you go. Now we learned something new. I thought that's the way it worked, but so yes. So you're going to get these files. I'll post the finished files if you want to use this to the Patreon also, but then you'll have the video. I'll post the video to YouTube so you have the video too. So you can see everything we did.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that we want to talk about? Like I say, if there's something out there that you want to see for Thursday, even if it's embroidery related, maybe we'll do something embroidery related on Thursday too. But just let me know, and we'll see if we can get it for you. Joy's not here tonight, but Joy is wanting to make some cookie cutter Hello Kitty things with a cookie cutter, and I've been promising her. So that is definitely going to be done on Thursday. We're going to show how to make some cookie cutters, and not only cookie cutters, but the little stamps for cookies, you know, so you can make the little indentations in the cookies and like gingerbread men and stuff like that. That's what she was wanting to know how to make. And I've been promising her. So a couple weeks now. So we're gonna do some cookie cutters and some cookie stamps. We've got to get that done.
Is that the same as doing the modes?
A moat. What's that?
No, the modes, like the,
Oh, molds.
yeah.
No, that's different.
Okay.
But that is a good. I have been seeing like a lot of that. I just watched a video the other day where this lady was 3D printing how was she doing it? She was 3D printing a mold for her resin.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
That she then was using the resin to make a mold.
Yeah.
It was kind of confusing, but it looked cool what she was doing. You know, she was 3D printing the mold to make the resin, and then once the resin came out of the mold, I'll have to find that because I know I save everything cool that I see I save. But I was like, hey, that's pretty cool, and I forgot what she was actually doing with the mold part of it. Like I don't know what she was making, but whatever it was cool. and
Yeah.
she couldn't sell them fast enough, I guess. But I think the mold was wasn't it for chocolate or something, like for molding chocolate, or it was something like that. Like I think it was somehow bakery related. Like I think it's what she was making the molds for. It's
Yeah.
like edible chocolates is what it was. So, so anyhow, yeah, we can research that too. But they do have food safe PLA now, so it's about twice as expensive as regular PLA, but you know it is food safe. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging in there. I know I kept you a long time. So I will see you on Thursday.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.